Oh, no, you're right there.
Sorry. Hi, everybody. As you know, like parking's a bear right now and traffic's a bear right now. We've got a few board members that are still on their way, either parking or just about pulling up. So we're going to be a few more minutes.
Yeah.
Get going. So feel free to relax, use the restroom, anything like that. But it's going to be probably, my guess, it's maybe 5 to 10 minutes until we start.
Yeah, we don't have quorum, so we can't start the meeting until we have everybody here. Sorry. But thank you all for coming. There is, for those who are coming in and there's no room, there is an overflow room. Where's it going to be? Okay, across from the lobby, there's a student services. If anybody's worried about not having a place to sit, there's going to be room over there. Okay. Thank you all for being here.
We have to. We can't start. Yeah. I was gonna say it, they just go down.
So they're not gonna, well. Somebody has a handicap.
Looks like we're just about to get started. For those who, first of all, welcome everyone to our study session. This is not your typical board meeting. This is going to be a study session where we are here to learn as a team. We have a wonderful team here. I see quite a big group, so it's a little different setup. And so welcome. We are about to get started. We're still waiting for a couple of board members who are in the parking lot trying to get here. So we're just going to hang in there, but I did want to take a little time to explain what we're up to today. Obviously, you know our topic of conversation today, which is awesome. I'm looking forward to the discussion and welcome our guests who are going to present today. And we'll just get started in just a minute. So thank you. And you can talk. It's okay. When I do the gavel, that's when we'll stop talking. Okay, thanks. Let me know when you're set up. All right, Buff, we good? All right, we're gonna get started. Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order. I'm going to go through roll call. So Trustee Jacobson.
Here.
Trustee Chavez.
Here.
Trustee Griffin.
Present.
And Trustee Andrade Zuniga. All right, and I am present as well. So we are going to start. So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our board meeting. This is a study session. Tonight, or this afternoon, we have our Spanish interpreter, Enrique Montaldo. For those who would like to attend the study session virtually in Spanish, that option is available. Enrique, would you please communicate that for us?
Buenas tardes. Tenemos a nuestro intérprete de español para la reunión de esta tarde. Para aquellos de ustedes que quieran asistir a la reunión en español, esta opción está disponible. Gracias.
Thank you. So if you wish to view closed captions of the study session, you can view this on the San Mateo Union High School District board meeting YouTube channel. The link to the YouTube channel can be found on our website. You may also view captions in English as we stream live of our study session tonight, and you may view the captions in a variety of other languages if you choose to after the study session is ended. Viewers may request additional accommodations by calling 650-558-2201. For our deaf and hard of hearing community, we have a team from Hannah Interpreting Services, and they will be interpreting our study session this afternoon. We would like to ask everyone to speak clear at a reasonable pace for our interpreters. I hope I'm doing that. Thank you. We're going to begin with Pledge of Allegiance. Superintendent Booker.
Yes.
Can we all rise, please?
I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. We have, before we start our presentation, would it be okay if we did some introductions at the table? Okay, so my name is Greg Land. I'm president of the board. Let's move on to the right.
Hi, everybody. My name is Michelle Fischera. I'm a current ethnic studies teacher and instructional coach at Burlingame High School.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Likia Andrade Zúñiga, Vice President of the Board.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Laura Chalkley. I'm the Manager of Communications for the district.
And I'm Samia Schuman, Manager of English Learner and Academic Support Programs.
I'm Alicia Vosberg. I'm an ethnic studies and U.S. history teacher at Cappuccino.
My name is Jackie Rogers. I'm the Ethnic Studies and LTL Coordinator for the district, and I teach Ethnic Studies at Cappuccino High School.
Jennifer Jacobson, Board Trustee.
Julia Kemke, Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction.
Hello, I'm Jill Jacobs. I teach Advancing Ethnic Studies, English, and ALD at Hillsdale High School.
Brian Simmons, the Director of Curriculum and Assessment for the district.
Gwen Lee, San Mateo County Office of Education, Coordinator of ELA and History Social Science.
Courtney Caldwell, I teach Ethnic Studies, AVID, and Link Crew Leadership at Aragon.
Jerica Keene, I teach Ethnic Studies, Agency and Social Justice and Economics at Aragon High School.
Angela Zink, I'm a Burlingame High School graduate, and I also teach Ethnic Studies and AP Human Geography at Mills High School.
I'm Terry Chavez, school board member, and I also have a daughter at Cappuccino and a daughter that just graduated last year at Cappuccino.
My name is Candace Thomas. I teach U.S. history at Mills High School, and I teach ethnic studies.
Hi, Alexandra Dove. I am in the history department, currently teaching government and economics. I'm also the activities director and MTS coordinator at Mills High School.
Hello, everyone. I'm Bob Griffin. I'm Board of Trustees.
My name is Ed Montelongo. I teach Ethnic Studies in AVID, and I'm the co-chair of the Social Science Department at San Mateo High School.
Hello, my name is Jose Bañuelos. I teach Ethnic Studies and American Government Economics at San Mateo High School.
Oh, you got to reach.
Good afternoon. I'm Kirk Black, Deputy Superintendent of HR and Student Services.
Good afternoon. I'm Shara Aquino, Assistant to the Superintendent and Board of Trustees.
Good afternoon, Randall Booker, Superintendent.
All right, so I'm going to turn it over to Superintendent Booker.
Thank you very much. First, I just want to welcome everyone and thank you for fighting traffic and parking and all those kinds of things. This is really fantastic. I know that San Mateo Union, we have not had very many study sessions over the years, especially related to curriculum and instruction. So I'm really proud and thankful for everyone's participation and interest and engagement. That's what we want in our schools and for all of our children and our students. I want to give a little bit of an overview of what a board study session is, and then we'll get started. But first, I want to thank our educators, our families, our students, our tech team, especially for setting all of this up. This is amazing. So I just want to thank everyone for their participation. I know this can feel very formal, especially with an audience In the background, we have an overflow section. We're on TV, all those kinds of things. But really the point of a study session is professional learning for the board. It's an opportunity for us to come together and connect and learn together. And one of the things I've been really trying to espouse lately is in order for us to be leaders in any field with which we choose, we first have to be learners. And so that's what today is about. It's about being learners. This is a deep dive and focus in partnership with district educators and other support staff, hence why we are sitting around a table equally. A board study session has 4 primary components: educating, informing the board on a particular topic, providing an opportunity for the board to ask questions directly to district educators, gathering feedback and ideas from the board on a particular topic, and in this case, ethnic studies, and receiving direction for me from the board on next steps. Again, I'm really excited. We're scheduled to go about 2 hours. The first hour is really an opportunity for district and county educators to provide professional learning for our board. And then the second half of our time together is really where we hand the mic over to the Board of Trustees for them to engage, ask questions, provide feedback, where we have a back and forth as a community of learners. With that, I want to jump into our presentation. I'm going to be introducing our first speaker. This will be Dr. Gwen Lee from the County Office of Education. Dr. Lee has been in education for almost 30 years. She joined the San Mateo County office in 2016 and is a former teacher, district English learner coordinator, and regional director of the California Reading and Literature Project at UC Berkeley. She brings a wide range of expertise in literacy, English learners, and history, social science to support districts in San Mateo County. Dr. Lee formerly developed and taught ethnic studies for middle school students and received several education awards for school-wide inclusive programs that centered student voice and equity. Dr. Lee has also taught in both the elementary and secondary education program at San Francisco State University. At the San Mateo County Office of Education, she leads the Civics Education Initiative, which anchors in social justice and critical literacy. Most recently, her work with districts has been grounded in developing systems and programs with an equity lens in both ELA and history social science. She earned her doctorate in international and multicultural education in the year 2000 and has been engaging in social justice and equity work for most of her career. And I want to especially thank Dr. Lee for giving up her time and joining us today. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I guess my other claim to fame is that I'm also Mills High School, 1987.
That's
Graduate.
important.
That is important. That is important. So I'm happy to be here. I'm Gwen Lee. I'm here from the county office, and I'm here to share a little bit about ethnic studies with you and hopefully set the stage for what your district has developed in the past years. So I think to just go back to what ethnic studies is, we want to think about ethnic studies in the way that it's interdisciplinary. So not only does it touch history, but it touches economics, sociology, anthropology, literature, and it really seeks to address content that really has been missing from traditional curriculum and to encourage critical engagement. As a field, it's important for ethnic studies to really empower. And when I was doing my doctorate 20 years ago, so a very long time ago, it would have been a dream to have been able to engage in ethnic studies at the school level, K-12 level, because I really feel like even growing up in the system, I didn't really have opportunities to see myself. And so not only does it provide that for students, but it also provides a critical lens, as you will, to outside of myself and other cultures. And I think that's really important, especially in today's time. So it's important to document the experiences of people of color in order for students to construct counter narratives and develop a more complex understanding of the human experience. Everything that I'm sharing with you today comes out of the Ethnic Studies model curriculum that was adopted in March of 2021. we're not gonna, hopefully it doesn't play. Yeah. I just want to set the stage for you. Ethnic studies is not a new curriculum. It started in 1968, 69 at San Francisco State. And so basically in our own backyard, where students basically recognized that there were histories within the United States that were missing at critical levels where students could understand themselves and others. So the specific demands included establishing what became known later as Africana Studies, American Indian Studies, Asian American Studies, Latino Studies, all within the College of Ethnic Studies at San Francisco State. So that's a really important history piece. Much of the work in ethnic studies comes from students themselves. And so it is civic action really in the making. At the same time, UC Berkeley students were also recognizing that they were missing pieces of their identities and their histories in the United States, and also created their own coalitions. And at that time, in March, I think, of 1969, they developed their own ethnic studies department and followed really the first College of Ethnic Studies after San Francisco State. And then after those two universities paved the way, many more were to follow across the nation. So the graduation requirement, this is not really new, although it was passed in October of 2021. It is the Assembly Bill number 101. It's really easy to look up, but basically allows for ethnic studies to be a graduation requirement beginning 2025 locally, where those graduating 2029 sees it as their graduation requirement. In our county, it really had been established for a while, so we really didn't have to push very hard to roll out ethnic studies. And I can share more about that in a minute. So the course offerings AB 101 calls for is based on ethnic studies adopted by the state board. It is to meet A through G requirements approved by UCs and CSUs and provide credit for ethnic studies under different curriculum. So it could be an English class in ethnic studies or a geography class in ethnic studies, but high schools apply to get the credit for the A through G. It does prohibit courses that do not use ethnic studies as a core. So you can't say that you're teaching ethnic studies, just as a side unit in English, for example. It has to be really a core class. So the requirement for instructional materials are appropriate for use for all scholars, including race, religion, gender, sexual orientation, and ethnic background. They do not promote bias or bigotry or discrimination against any group, does not promote any religious doctrine. I know much of the seminal work is Strangers from a Different Shore. It's in the model curriculum, and I believe that it's the text that San Mateo Union also uses here. So there is new funding for ethnic studies for districts, and AB 130 granted a county office of education in San Diego $5 million for ethnic studies professional development and online resource repository. That work is called Project CRESC, and it's sort of organized by a geo lead. And our geo lead is Alameda County Office of Education. We are participating in Project CRESC. I am the project lead for our county office. And that work is just slowly getting started and underway. So it's really meant to sort of curate, develop, expand on any current work that's out there and provide sort of this, what they're calling right now, a hub of resources for districts and teachers. AB 130 was another $50 million that was allotted to local education agencies serving high school students for the 2021-22 fiscal year, and that funding has already been allocated. So the model curriculum, what is it? This is a hot topic because I often get questions about the model curriculum because the name doesn't necessarily translate to what you think it is, right? So what the model curriculum is, it is a document that has been published by the California Department of Education. It was adopted in March of 2021, so shortly before the governor signed the graduation requirement into law. And it is now recently published in its full form. So you can see that it, before it was like small chapters in Word. Now it's this beautiful PDF document. And the table of contents is right there. So much of what I will share with you is really in chapter 1, the introduction and overview. It's about 789 pages. So I don't expect all of you to be reading it. But it is, if you're looking for guidance in terms of district implementation, instructional guidance, it's all within there. So what is a model curriculum? A model curriculum serves as guidance and support for LEAs. It's used hand in hand with history, social science state standards and the English language arts state standards, supported by both of those state frameworks. So English language arts and history social science frameworks have strong ties to the content in ethnic studies model curriculum. It provides sample topics and lessons, and then it also includes resources to support implementation, including recommendations for materials. What the model curriculum is not is a scope and sequence or a pacing guide or one size fits all. So it's not something, and I think that's what the confusion is that it's not something you can just pick up, open to, lesson 22 and start teaching. So it's guidance and it has a lot of material in there. And if it were the entire model curriculum were to come to fruition, we would need really a year-long course, which I think it would be great. I think some districts have opted for that. So what I want to guide you to, though, are the 8 outcomes of ethnic studies teaching, because I think this is the work that really guides the rest of the document. In fact, I believe it's like chapter 3, where the 8 outcomes, it starts to talk about lesson planning and asks for at least one of the outcomes to be present in each lesson. And so I'm just going to walk you through the outcomes. I won't read all of the bullets, but if you have questions later, we can address them. So the first one, first I want to thank the students of San Mateo Union, because some of this artwork comes from your schools, and the slide credits are in the notes. So just wanted to share that. So I'm missing the top of my slide, so I just want to make sure I have it correct. So I want to show you that it's pursuit of justice and equity is what that Zoom thing is blocking. And so, and what that means is ethnic studies should include stories of injustice, marginalization, and discrimination. It should draw on multiple perspectives, create a better understanding of dissimilar and unequal ethnic trajectories in order to strive for greater equity and inclusivity. Should help students comprehend the various manifestations of racism and other forms of ethnic bigotry, discrimination, and marginalization. And it should help students understand processes of social change and the role they play, and the role they can play collectively in challenging these inequities. And the second outcome is working towards greater inclusivity. It should emphasize educational equity by being inclusive of all students, regardless of their backgrounds. Clarify the role of race and history in the United States, and incorporate the experiences and contributions of a broad range of ethnic groups. This fourth bullet is important because curricular time constraints will have to be made at the district and classroom level. to meet foundational disciplines while being able to make connections to the varying experiences of all students. So what the model curriculum suggests is also to think about and talk about the students that are also within your local context. So you might spend more time in particular in one area, in one of the other, like if it's like Asian American studies versus Native American studies, you might spend more time, or you might go deeper into even other groups. 3 is furthering self-understanding, helps students better exercise agency for self-advocacy. It helps students become better allies and advocates and for the rights and welfares of others, and provide opportunity for all students to examine their ethnic heritage. Number 4 is developing a better understanding of others. I spoke earlier about being able to really have this mirrors and windows experience in my own schooling, and not having where I really was always looking at windows of other cultures, and really didn't see myself until I went to college in any of the texts or things that I read. This is something that is really, one of the big keys in ethnic studies is helping students understand others. And so help students build bridges of intergroup understanding, expose students to a wide variety of voices, stories, experiences, perspectives through materials featuring people of a myriad of ethnic backgrounds. It also allows for students to share personal stories and their family histories while learning to understand ethnic differences to surface commonalities. Recognizing intersectionality is the 5th outcome. And this is really important for student identity and really just understanding, really all people, that we are all part of different social groups that span across many factors, not just one thing or another. And those factors include gender identity, religion, sex, class, ability, disability, age, sexual orientation, citizenship status, socioeconomic status, language use, and there's others, I'm sure. It allows to help students understand these categories can influence their experience, and where you connect in all of these places allows you to also see the commonalities in others. Number 6 is promoting self-empowerment for civic engagement. It helps students develop civic participation skills, self-empowerments for lifetime civic engagement for the purpose of great community and equity. It allows for students to become critical when analyzing documents, historical events, and multiple perspectives. That's straight from the history social science framework. And so there's a lot of alignment there. Promoting self-empowerment for civic engagement also allows students to learn to discuss difficult or controversial issues, particularly when race or ethnicity is involved. And it can provide students with opportunities to learn about different change strategies. One of the biggest pieces in ethnic studies is really thinking about the community. And so supporting a community focus is outcome number 7. You can devote special attention to ethnic groups that have been significantly present in their own communities, draw on multiple local sources or outside sources, local records, census materials, survey results, memoirs, media coverage, etc. It can involve oral history, whereby increasing additional opportunities for civic engagement. And the 8th outcome is developing interpersonal communication. Ethnic studies provides avenues to develop effective communication, learn to value and appreciate differences of each other's lived experiences, communicate with empathy, appreciation, and empowerment, and value and respect each other. So I spent a couple of days, I believe it was last school year, in ethnic studies classes in San Mateo Union High School District. I'm often asked in my position at the county office from other leadership across the state county office leadership for flagship programs that I can send teachers to, where they can review program and syllabus and see and observe other models of great ethnic studies teaching. Because of your own in-district ethnic studies expertise, Dr. Showman, she was on the CDE model curriculum writing committee. So that work is very deeply rooted here. And the College of Ethnic Studies, San Francisco State University. I often refer outside county offices and any other schools within our county to this program for observations and program development. I just want to share one thing that a student said to me. I was going to observe Dr. Jackie Rogers' class at Cappuccino, and a young student was sent to the office to walk me up to her classroom. And so I asked her, so do you think you've been taking ethnic studies? It was the advancing ethnic studies. And I said, have you been taking ethnic studies during these 4 years? And she said, yeah, I took it my first year as a freshman. And now I'm in this advancing ethnic studies class. And I said, I'm just wondering, do you think ethnic studies shifts, people's thinking around culture? And she looked at me with her little mask, and then I was masked. And she said, I feel like I hadn't been educated before. So that's what I'm going to leave you with. I know that Dr. Showman will introduce the San Mateo Union's program, but I'm happy to share what our higher level viewpoint is from the county office.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Shall we turn it over?
We'll get our slides up. Good afternoon, President Land, members of the board, district leadership, and community. It's pretty awesome to see this many people here.
Absolutely.
Thank you for creating the opportunity for district staff and students to share with you the love, community, and compassion we strive to cultivate through our ethnic studies classes. Dr. Jason Ferreira, who's a professor of ethnic studies at San Francisco State, described ethnic studies as bigger than a syllabus and bigger than a practice in a classroom. He says it's more than an adjective and noun, it's a verb, like love. I hope today, as our leaders, teachers, and especially the students, share with you what they are teaching and learning and how they're engaging with complex content and discourse, you will understand that students are learning to love themselves and others. Ethnic studies is more than a class. It's more than readings, tests, papers, presentations. It's a community of learners rooted in civic engagement and collaboration. We'll leave you to read this quote on the top. Mayra Alvarez de Santiago was recognized with the 2018 Teaching Tolerance Award for Excellence in Teaching for her work as an ethnic studies teacher. What she communicates in this quote is also what we see our students sharing with us and what you'll hear them share today. In ethnic studies, they have found a space to be their full and authentic selves and have learned how to create a space for their peers to be their full and authentic selves. This allows for rigorous academic discourse and personal reflection and growth to happen. This is possible because of the amazing staff you're in community with today, as well as the ones who couldn't join us. They are developing and facilitating these safe spaces. This second quote I will read. It's by a student who's joining us today. You'll hear from him soon. But every time I read this quote, ethnic studies is necessary because it explores topics that help those who have felt marginalized. As a Native American, I have felt like my story, my history has been left out entirely. The story of our ancestors have been lost over time. 90% of the time, I'm the only Native American in the room. But ethnic studies has provided my people with the representation and education that I should have been learning in schools for much longer. Ethnic studies was the only class to make any acknowledgement during Native American History Month. Ethnic studies was the only class to share our land acknowledgement and even create a new one. Ethnic studies has been the only class to make me feel seen. If I can create that feeling of importance in one individual, who are we to block others from experiencing that? When I read this, I understand what Dr. Ferreira meant when he described ethnic studies as the verb love. I also understand that we're contributing one small piece in making the anti-racist board policy and administrative regulations you all passed more of a living reality. In the California Department of Education's model curriculum, chapter 3, page 35, it says, ethnic studies is grounded in the belief that education can be a tool for transformation, social, economic, and political change and liberation. I believe as you hear from staff and students today, you will see that this course is transformative for so many of our students. I think, Dr. Lee, thank you for outlining the outcomes of the model curriculum. We put them side by side. These are our current articulated outcomes. We are confident that they parallel really well with the outcomes outlined in the CDE's model ethnic studies curriculum. In ethnic studies, the pedagogy is as important as the content and instruction. The first 3 chapters of the CDE's model curriculum articulates the importance of pedagogy. It outlines that in chapter 3. And in that section on community building, it says, it's imperative for ethnic studies educators to develop a pedagogy and a classroom that 1, see the humanity and value of each individual student. 2, respect diverse viewpoints and recognize that each student has their own wealth of experiences and knowledge that will shape their worldviews and values. 3, are grounded in academic rigor, but also tend to the social emotional development of students. 4, encourage students to engage each other with respect, trust, love, and accountability. And 5, create a space where learning is democratized and students are centered through an inquiry-based process that nurtures the student voice and honors different styles of learning. We are proud of where our program and our classes are now. We know when we gather for our ethnic studies collaboration in April that we'll do what we do every spring and interrogate how we can be better. But for now, we're excited to share what we are doing in our classes. So I'm going to introduce Ms. Jackie Rogers, our ethnic studies teacher and coordinator, I think, who will in turn welcome a couple of students who will start by presenting on the pedagogical approaches and how it sets the conditions for learning in our classes. And then we will go through and outline what we're teaching in each of our units.
Good afternoon, all, and thank you, Samia. My name is Jackie Rogers. I'm absolutely honored to be here and to be surrounded by your ethnic studies family today. The people in this room, the community outside this space, my friends and colleagues, as well as the students presenting today, are a testament to what, again, San Francisco State professor, Dr. Jason Ferreira describes ethnic studies as: bigger than a syllabus, bigger than a practice in the classroom, more than an adjective and a noun. It's a verb like love. And I realized I picked the same quote as Samia, but I do think that it speaks to what this course means to me and to so many people here, and that's love. So I want to thank you all for the love that you're showing to this course. And we are really excited to affirm the hard work, our hard work for the last 5 years in this district. We'd like to start our time today, as we would with our ethnic studies classes, by grounding it in ethnic studies rituals, pedagogical anchors, and tenets to help create and maintain a sacred space that allows for love, joy, celebration, critical thinking, and thoughtful and open discussion, all for the ultimate goal of liberation. On this slide, you'll see 2 of our rituals in Lakesh, a Mayan concept seen in Chicano playwright Luis Valdez's poem, Pensamiento Serpentino. We also have a land acknowledgement created to recognize and honor the Ramaytush as the original caretakers of this land. We're going to begin with the land acknowledgement, and I want to invite Cappuccino Senior and advancing ethnic studies scholar Nico Tunkett to explain the how and the why of a land acknowledgement and how this is significant to him and his classmates. Nico.
Good afternoon. My name is Nicolas Tunkett, and As Ms. Rogers said, I am a senior Native American student at Cappuccino High School. I was a part of a group of 8 students this year who worked on creating a land acknowledgement for our school. We are currently going through the process of getting our land acknowledgement adopted at Cappuccino, but it has already been adopted within our classrooms. We created a new land acknowledgement because we felt that we wanted to express our own personal connections to the land and to the culture that originated here. We spent a lot of time doing research in order to create this, but most importantly, we reached out to the members of the Ramaytush Ohlone, the original inhabitants of the San Francisco Peninsula that we seek to recognize and honor. We seek to remember and honor the ancestors and take care of the land in allyship with the Ramaytush to preserve the land for future generations. There are hundreds of personal reasons that each individual will view this as important, but I will speak on my own experience. My tribe is the Choctaw Nation from Oklahoma. Due to this, I never see any of my own people. The only interaction I receive with my culture is every 4 years at a tribal meeting in San Francisco. Besides this in ethnic studies, the only acknowledgement for Native Americans I see is mass genocide, stolen land, and stereotypes, all leaving out the beauty of the culture and the rich history prior to colonization. By acknowledging that Native Americans were here, still here, and that this was once their land, we finally receive important positive recognition and no longer feel like we are forgotten by the public, lost in history. Recognizing is the first step to bettering Native struggles, as well as allowing the Native population to feel seen, and that's why I view it important to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Nico. Thanks. An important component of ethnic studies are the pedagogical anchors, the how and the why we teach. We must center our students' lived experiences, drawing from UC Riverside professor Dr. Tara Yasso-Call's community and cultural wealth. Dr. Yasso designed this model to capture the talents, the strengths, the experiences that students of color bring with them to their academic environments. It represents a framework to understand how students of color access and experience school from an asset-based perspective. By doing this, we're able to leverage the immense wealth that our scholars bring into our rooms each and every day. This acknowledgement and centering of wealth helps create and maintain those safe and brave spaces for our students to come in as their full and their authentic selves. Activities such as Where I'm From poems, I Am poems, name acrostics, artifact circles, and mastering counter narrative identity slides give students the opportunity to share their stories and their experiences with one another. I'd like to invite Cappuccino Jr. and Advancing Ethnic Studies scholar Gemma Garabai to share her experience.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Gemma Garabai, and I'm a first-generation Filipino American. And growing up without learning my culture and history felt like a puzzle. I felt like a puzzle with a missing piece. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't complete the picture of who I was supposed to be. However, discovering the experiences of my ancestors through my counter-narrative assignment during my freshman ethnic studies class was like finding that missing piece and finally being able to see the full picture of who I am. This project allowed me to connect with my grandparents over the counter narrative stories of my grandfathers and the deep history of my family. My 2 great-grandfathers, Jose Rizal and Stanley Garibay, were incredible writers and activists. Jose wrote about Filipino life during the Spanish colonization of the Philippines in the late 1800s, and Stanley wrote about the immigrant labor rights in America during the 1960s. Reading their writing, especially considering that their works were previously censored by the government during their time, made me realize my privileges and inspired me to genuinely care about my education. It was like finding that missing piece of the puzzle, and that my love for learning and literature came from then and was flooding through my veins and DNA. This project was an epiphany for me to realize the importance of getting a good education and empowered me to actually care about school, as well as to use my voice to share the counter narratives of today that are still being tucked away. I'm forever grateful to Ms. Rogers and the Ethnic Studies program for giving me the chance to relive the counter narratives of my family. If it wasn't for this project, I truly don't believe I would be as strong as a student as I am today. Thank you.
Thanks, Gemma. As I've mentioned before, in Lak'ech is a ritual as well as a pedagogical anchor. In my ethnic studies class, we begin our class period by reciting the poem as a way to set our intention and to remind us of our shared humanity. Additionally, we spend time at the beginning of the semester analyzing this poem, having discussions about what the message is, how In Lak'ech is seen in and out of our classroom space, and why it's important to us individually and as a collective unit.
You are my other me. Sing I do harm to you, I do harm to myself. Si te amo y respeto, if I love and respect you, me amo y respeto yo. I love and respect myself.
All right, so just like what you've heard, the purpose of the poem in Lak'ech is to ground or anchor our students in community so we can co-create safe spaces for our complex conversations and serves as an important reminder of our shared humanity. The image on the right, you can see a poster from my Advancing Ethnic Studies class last year. You can see our signatures and a bunch of orange Post-its all around, and each of those orange Post-its represents what In Lak'ech looks like, feels like, and sounds like in our classroom. Together, we co-created what our classroom environment should look like. So we know it's so important for our students to feel safe and valued in our classes. This is an important tool that we revisit throughout the semester, especially when we need to refocus on our values and we need to remind ourselves of our shared humanity, which, as you can imagine, when working with teenagers, does tend to come up.
At the beginning of our courses as teachers, we always try to build community. I feel especially in ethnic studies, we try to go beyond the simple definition of what a community is of people with similar interest or just being in the same classroom for 90 minutes. And instead, we really try to focus on the foundations of what a community is: purpose, accountability, mutual support, emotions. At the beginning of our ethnic studies class, we practice in Lak'ech, and this is my assignment that we use in my class. At the beginning of our semester, students showed what in Lak'ech means to them. They wrote the meaning of their own interpretation of what in Lak'ech is, along with the visual to represent it. And I'll leave you with the highlighted assignment. What this student said: how do you tell someone you love and respect them? You don't. You show them to the point that they just know.
Thank you. The tenets that we use in our district are a set of beliefs that center the values and principles of ethnic studies. And you can see on the left, we've got our ethnic studies tenets, and on the right, the values and the principles that are seen in the California State Model Curriculum on chapters 1 and 3, where it's been advised that every unit and lesson plan be founded on the guiding values, such as cultivating empathy, holistic well-being, providing a space to share stories, challenging colonial beliefs and practices, and the promotion of transformative resistance, critical hope, and radical healing. Thank you. For me, in my ethnic studies class, the tenets are used as a tool of reflection. At the end of an activity or a summative assignment, I've asked my students to refer back to the tenets to reflect on their own learning throughout the semester. You can see their reflections there after the first unit, as well as for their final project. And I do this in introduction as well as in advancing.
Keeping in mind my students and the various assets and background knowledges that they bring to my class, I reimagine and synthesize the tenets as pillars for the sake of concretization, succinctness, and authenticity. The pillars, as you can see on the screen, of power, social identity, people of color, freedom and social justice, and healing, help my students wrap their minds around around ethnic studies as a subject more tangibly. And the number of pillars that I present represents my personal relationship to the tenets at this point in time, and thus reflects the ever-revolving but current reality of my classroom lessons and methods of teaching. When reviewing the pillars, I make it a point to say out loud that ethnic studies came into being to bring more balance to the groups of people that we study in class. An important activity that we do, among others, to help students internalize the pillars is a gallery walk of posters of prominent historical and contemporary figures that I commissioned to have made, some of which are shown on the screen. Students take their reading and notes on the pillars, extract meaning from the figures' quotes, and apply their understanding of the pillars by making connections between the figures' words and the pillars reflected within them. This activity helps cement the pillars as foundational because the figures' words permanently adorn my classroom's walls and show students that everything in the class of ethnic studies, including the decor, truly is connected.
So one of the greatest benefits of being an ethnic studies teacher in this district is being able to collaborate with ethnic studies teachers across this district. Since the inception of ethnic studies here, we've had an Ethnic Studies Professional Development Institute that focuses on our professional learning, as well as the examination and ongoing collective reflection of our course of study and our specific units that you see there. Currently in our 18-week semester course, we cover 4 units. Unit 1, what is ethnic studies and identity? Unit 2, race, ethnicity, and racism. Unit 3, gender, sexuality, and sexism. And our last unit of transformation and change. Over the last 5 years, we spent a lot of time looking at each one of these units of studies, thinking about how we teach the shared topics, how do we address the essential questions, while also reflecting on the feedback from our students through our end of course survey, as well as gathering feedback from the teachers who are teaching the course. In our first year, we took the approach of studying the 4 groups, but once the time constraints of a semester course made this challenging, we moved to a more thematic approach where we highlight the 4 groups as case studies in various units. This is aligned with chapter 3 of the model curriculum, where they advise that the ethnic studies curricula combine both comparative and thematic approaches. Next month, our ethnic studies family will convene for a 3rd time this year to look at our course of study, so it continues to be responsive and representative of our students' lived experiences. We also hope to collaborate with other teachers like our health teachers to see what the overlap is in topics as a way to center our depth over breadth. For each unit, you will hear more from our teachers and our students about how this is seen in their classrooms.
So what is ethnic studies and identity is what opens up our semester with our students. And we recognize that when we get our students, they are, brand new to our school as 9th graders, whether it be 1st or 2nd semester. And so we have a job to do in building community within our class while also developing their understanding of their own identity and what is ethnic studies? Why does it matter? Why are they here? And so at least at Aragon, in terms of helping to build that community, we actually have the students use their identity to help build the community. And so we've created kind of this leveled system in, we have to meet them where they're at, right? Students come in with a different understandings of their identity, their family, their history. And so we open with a puzzle activity that actually is not pictured, but it asks students basic questions like, what's your favorite food? What's your favorite color? What's something you're proud of? And hidden underneath the puzzle when they open it to reveal who they are is a name acrostic poem where they get to identify characteristics of themselves that they're proud of. From there, we actually go to an activity on intersectionality, where we have the students look at the different aspects of their identity. And you can actually see the activity we do at Aragon on the right side of the screen, where students identify different intersections that they have. And then to create that visual of intersectionality, we have them string the yarn through their paper to create that web of intersectionality. From there, the students take an even deeper dive into looking at their family and what aspects of their culture they want to highlight. And so you can see 3 different student interpretations of the Where I'm From poem, where they are really identifying, what aspects of their culture, their history, what makes them who they are. And at this point, a lot of students recognize they haven't had these conversations with their families. And we've heard feedback at, open house and back to school night that students are coming home and asking, I don't know how to answer this question. Like what does our family value, And so really opening up conversations at home when they dive into this work. For each of these aspects, that puzzle, the intersectionality web and their Where I'm From poems, students come together with another group of students in the class to share. So they are building community, learning about one another and learning about differences in a way, again, where we've leveled it. So they're developing their comfort as time goes on.
Thank you. So touching on the specificity of what ethnic studies is. So as my colleague Courtney just mentioned, we definitely really highlight the idea that they are ethnic studies. And so identity and what is ethnic studies are interwoven and interconnected. You did hear at the beginning of the presentation a little bit about the history of ethnic studies. And of course, that does come into play in this unit. It's both humanizing, it touches on ancestral knowledge and also collective memory. And a lot of students really enjoy kind of learning about like, how are they now sitting in our classrooms and in our desks? How are we all together in a common space? From there, also, you can see some examples of student work on there. One of them is, or two of them there are examples of what's called an artifact bag. So they are meant to pick or select photos of three things that reflect their identities, go into more detail about them, and then they do actually share out at their table groups. In addition to that, we do a lesson on name stories. So they actually, again, go diving into their own name history, but then also we look at what are different cultural practices of names. Our names have so much history and so much of our identity tied into it. And so from there, we can bounce into the other units that are obviously extremely important. So this is very foundational to the work that we do.
I want to preface as I explain our identity unit. Please feel free to read these summaries of interviews that students did. A big part of our identity unit is students learning about themselves and who they are. And I know that's a really tough ask for 13 and 14-year-olds of like, who am I? When a lot of adults are still trying to figure that out. But the overall goal is by learning who they are, hoping that they build some empathy towards others. And yes, they do a variety of activities. However, when this, one of my favorite activities that I like to do in my class is an ancestral interview where the kids answer an essential question. What do students learn about themselves when they explore their ancestral roots? I'm a very firm believer that you can learn a lot by your elders and your ancestors. And this activity, students were asked to interview ideally a family relative or just anybody who really cares about them, but an older family or relative or somebody who cares about them. And they had a preset of questions, and a lot of them chose, people from all over the world. And the last couple of years I've done this, I've been surprised and very humbled about all the students experience, their ancestral experience from literally across the globe. And I would add selfishly, another really rewarding thing is at open house, like previously mentioned, parents come and they talk about this. My kid actually asked me about where I'm from or how I grew up, or even then, my child talked to my grandpa, my child talked to my dad, and I even learned stuff that my dad never told me. So just overall, that's a very great and again, humbly experience, especially as I can relate to a lot of these stories being a first generation student, educator.
Sorry, I definitely recommend if you have a chance, to listen to these student reflections on the project that Jose just described. They're pretty awesome.
Hi, my name is Luna.
Hi, my name is Rishabh Sharma.
Uh-oh. Oh dear.
Unit 2 on race, ethnicity, and racism at San Mateo High School consists of a series of activities that center on explaining how race is socially constructed, how race differs from ethnicity, and how racism in the United States occurs both interpersonally and institutionally in the case of police behavior towards Black Americans. This unit comes at the heels of Unit 1 on identity, 6 weeks into the semester, specifically because of the sensitive nature of the topics and the necessity of a safe space to engage them. Throughout a wide variety of activities, including watching the film that they read in their English classes, The Hate You Give, as a point of departure, and using online simulation games, online implicit bias tests, among others, and the trajectory of my individual relationship and community building, I do my very best to explore these questions with students through a balanced approach that tries to respect the range of experiences that they have, that never imparts a sense of shame or guilt, and that points to data as the basis for honest conversations about US society along the lines of race and ethnicity. On a more personal note, teaching this class and teaching this unit has initiated a paradigm shift in my professional outlook and the way that I approach teaching all of my classes, not just ethnic studies. And it's been the honor of a lifetime to be a part of this team and to have had these experiences with my students that I've had thus far. At this time, I'd like to invite 2 students of mine from last semester to speak about the impact that taking ethnic studies has had on their sense of self and their outlook on society. Please welcome Janelli Salazar.
Hello, my name is Janelli Salazar, and the impact ethnic studies has taken on me as a young person and student is learning more about not just racism, but also social identity, implicit bias, culture, and microaggressions, impacting my daily life in both in and out of school. For instance, as a young student around so many people, even students, I hear racist and like homophobic jokes after taking ethnic studies. These jokes stood out to me much more because it's something I feel that isn't right for someone just to say, especially because the person addressing it might not know what the person is going through or if they felt offended. Taking ethnic studies made me more curious about others and how we all think different and come from very different backgrounds. Ethnic studies also helped me think about myself more by learning that there's so many layers in someone that build up throughout someone's life. And a topic I enjoyed about ethnic studies is social identity. This topic is one of the beginning topics that ethnic studies teaches that settles you in learning about the categories that come with social identity. I enjoyed social identity because it teaches you about yourself and about your history. I also found useful to learn about implicit bias because it demonstrates how people unconsciously think about someone based on looks. To me, ethnic studies made me feel very educated because I learned a lot about what happens in the real world and why it happens. It also made me feel more aware of others' actions, what they say, and how they might say it. Overall, ethnic studies taught me to learn how society works and why it works this way, not negatively affecting my visual on people, but affecting my knowledge on why people might behave the way they do. In my opinion, I think young people should take ethnic studies because it gives us a visual on how society works towards people of different backgrounds and how parts of us are created from society and our culture. Lastly, I think taking ethnic studies will help me not only young people, but adults to understand a situation better that has to do with someone's identity. Thank you.
Thank you, Janelli. And now, Sayuri Hughes.
Hello, I'm Sayuri Hughes. I am a ninth grader at San Mateo High School. So as a student, ethnic studies has changed my understanding of race, prejudice, and the constructs that uphold society. However, as a young person that is Black, ethnic studies has created a comfortable space where I can communicate about the racism that I face, as well as learning to heal from those experiences. Ethnic studies makes me curious about why our society is built the way it is. Race is only a social construct, so why was it built? And why did those in power feel the need to discriminate, abuse, and criminalize a group of people purely for their skin color? I think that what I enjoyed the most was learning about myself. In ethnic studies, we don't just tackle subjects of race, we also tackle social and personal identities. We learned about the census, internalized racism, and even implicit biases. My school only allows us to take one semester of ethnic studies, and without the class, my overall school enjoyment has gone down quite a bit. Ethnic studies has truly created an understanding among myself and my classmates about the discrimination we cannot control. That seriously made a positive impact on me. I think that one of the main reasons that racism, discrimination, and homophobia persist is from a lack of understanding. Fear leads to hate, and people fear what they do not understand. This fear has led to police brutality, educational barriers, and even ethnic cleansings. It's difficult not to fear those that are not like you, but classes like ethnic studies form that bridge of understanding and bringing people together. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. So this is from my Advancing Ethnic Studies class. It is a year-long class. And so I had the pleasure to teach it last year. Before I go into it, I do want to read a quote from one of my students, Jordan Aoki. She's a senior at Hillsdale High School. Ethnic studies doesn't just provide you with knowledge about the past, it also provides you with a toolbox for the future. Ethnic studies helps me on a daily basis. It taught me ways I can contribute to my community. It taught me ways to understand my own privileges and biases. And lastly, it taught me how to have an honest conversation and be kind. And so because it's the advancing course, we go a little bit deeper about analyzing institutional racism. What systems perpetuate climate injustice and food insecurity are the two things of 2 of the 6 units that I cover. What can we do to dismantle these systems? And then what are laws or policies creating these injustices? So for the food injustice unit, I had Mr. Stevenson, the dean at Hillsdale High School, come and give a presentation on the food pantry that we have. And so again, making food insecurity not something that you just talk about in general, but that people experience in our community, and giving students a little sample, an example of what we can do to dismantle these systems, but we also learn where they came from. So looking at laws about redlining and also doing an inquiry with certain maps and learning about food deserts. Also, the assessment for this unit, I had students make a zine, which was to educate the public about food insecurity and what we can do about it and to spread the word about the Peace Pantry. And so I'm all about process over product. And so I kind of want to show you something that was in the process to make the zine, which was a graphic organizer, where I asked students, I gave students the requirements, and then they had to go out and find the information and go back through their notes. And also, the next unit is about climate injustice, environmental injustice. It builds off of the food injustice unit nicely, because again, we look at redlining again, and also an inquiry of maps about where people live and, how they experience climate change, are they near hazardous materials, stuff like that. And then assign students a different area of the country to look at, areas that have been greatly affected by climate injustice. And students design and teach a lesson to their classmates about this location experiencing climate injustice. Again, looking at the laws and policies that created and what is being done in that community to dismantle the system.
Oh, no, now you can. First of all, I'm so sorry for being late. Our field trip ran a little long. So first field trip in 4 years. So the assignment that I wanted to talk about today was our humanities letter to character. I work at Hillsdale and we have a really unique experience at Hillsdale where we work very closely with our English counterparts. And for this particular assignment, students in English read American Born Chinese and an independent reading book. And at the end of the unit, we asked them to write a letter to the author of American Born Chinese, a character in one of their books, or even to themselves. And in this letter, we asked them to apply ethnic studies ideas to a challenging or difficult scene. So I chose 2 pieces of work and I highlighted in yellow in the first quote, what I found to be particularly profound from their letters. So I chose these quotes because I'm proud of how students applied the ethnic studies terms to difficult points in the book and how they capture the complexities, the beauty, and the importance of the characters and the authors speaking their truth. And it also seemed to show the students that they felt seen and validated in their own life experiences. So if you could just take a look here, they are talking about one of the scenes at American Born Chinese. And I really like the part where they say, there is beauty to your own culture as there is to every culture. You're a human among your peers, and you have as much right as any of them to want things, to feel things, to take up space. It is pretty amazing that students as young as 14 years old are beginning to understand and realize their value and their importance in this world. I have one more quote I just wanted to show off. Thank you. Thanks, sorry. This one is to the writer of American Born Chinese. And I really liked how they were able to connect stereotypes and dehumanization. But then they also talk about how they are so proud of the author for expressing their personal growth and how this author was able to embrace both sides of their identity. But I am reading through the lines here, and I think this also helped this student understand multiple sides of their own identity, as was said earlier in the letter. And yeah, on a personal note for me, this has been the privilege of my career to teach this course. I am so honored that I have been able to do this. So I really also want to thank the Ethnic Studies family for giving me this opportunity. Thanks.
Hi, me again. So I'm just going to share some work again for my advancing class. And so this was at the end of the year, and we were looking at equity dilemmas. What are some dilemmas in our Hillsdale community that are inequitable, and what can we do to try to fix them? And so the equity dilemma that this group of students came up with were around bathrooms for gender nonconforming students, and making sure that they are included in the community because they are usually left out. I also had students consider their most important core values. What do they care about? What do they cherish? And so I just listed these were 3: honesty, accountability, and unity. And from there, they kind of looked at their dilemma and what they can do. And the last one, again, all about process, was just a reflection after a Socratic seminar on a controversial issue. And I kind of just asked students to reflect on how they did, what they can do better, anything that they left out, and anything that I can do to help them do better the next time. So again, we have students who are not only being challenged, but given feedback, and also do better the next time in continuous learning.
All right, so as you've heard from my colleagues, we have inquiry-based lessons that build historical knowledge, that analyze primary and secondary sources of multiple experiences, and examine the connections and impact to contemporary society. And I just want to uplift 2 lessons that are near and dear to my heart from Unit 3. So in Unit 3, we pay close attention to how today's institutions create inequities, and power and privilege as it relates to gender and sexuality. In one lesson, we watch clips from the documentary Disclosure, which examines transgender depictions in film and television, which then reveals how Hollywood simultaneously reflects and manufactures America's view on gender. A powerful line from the documentary that we explore and dissect is that representation is just a means to an end. This is an important lesson that transcends just this lesson or this unit. Our students are able to make connections that representation is not the ultimate goal, but rather liberation and justice and the ability to live free of threats of violence or having to justify one's existence. In every unit, we also have a connection to music. So I'm really passionate about music, and from the amount of AirPods I see in my class, they certainly are addicted to their music. And music is an incredible lens to see how people have always carved out ways to exert their humanity. In Unit 3, we look at the history of disco and how music is often a place where folks have resisted and relaxed, celebrated, and organized. And it's also a powerful lens that connects how gender and sexuality often intersect with race and ethnicity.
Okay, so to finish off our semester course at the freshman level, we do finish with our last unit, which is transformation and change. How we approach it at Aragon, though, is that it is project-based learning. So students do create a project of their choice. So you can see a lot of student examples, student work up there. What I want to mention, and I think it's really important to mention, a very important theme throughout ethnic studies at our course is the idea that language is powerful and empowering. And when we give language to the injustices that students do face, do feel, that we visibly see, then we are better equipped to be able to recognize it and dismantle it. And so students in these projects are using that voice and that language that they've learned in order to basically highlight like how do we move forward. So some of the projects here you can see there's poems, like students are very passionate through poetry. We've received songs. The bottom corner is just a snapshot of We're All Humans, sung by a student. Very vulnerable. They do present these projects in class as their final. It ends our semester, so it's a lot of vulnerability, and so they do sing. The other song is actually a parody on Hey There Delilah, called Hey There America. Very adorable, very empowering. What they have to say is so rich. They experience these things that we talk about in ethnic studies, but having that language to be able to express themselves is extremely important. You can see there's artwork there. So how we go about doing this, or supporting students in their projects, is that basically we offer them a variety of different kind of ideas, or kind of, I guess, jumping off points for projects that they might want to create. We offer examples of, different like poetry that we've read, different videos that we've seen, music analysis. Music is obviously very important. And then from there, they can really pick their topic that reflects their identity best, and then really, kind of dive into that and then explain the why. So they do include ethnic studies vocabulary in there. And all of these art pieces do come with like a, written explanation that they actually go through and explain each piece that's in there for enhanced learning. And with the goal for students to leave our classroom with curiosity and openness moving forward.
All right, so for our final project in my Intro to Ethnic Studies class, we've created zines, and you can see them just right next to the unit essential questions. And this past semester, we focused on Asian American and Pacific Islander activism. We chose to create zines because they have a long history of creating space and centering marginalized voices or perspectives. Zines are an important tool for building community, connecting people with similar interests or experiences, and promoting activism and social change. They can also serve as a form of resistance to dominant culture narratives and power structures. This culminating project brought together the historical thinking skills and research skills they developed throughout the course. Students analyzed and synthesized multiple sources to create succinct zines that reflect their interests in learning. It's so inspiring to see them share out their zines and engage in conversations about not only the process of creating a zine or what zine they're going to create next, but also around current activists who share similar experiences as them. And this is my last time on the mic, and I just want to say that it is the experience of a lifetime and an honor of a lifetime to be able to learn alongside of our scholars in ethnic studies. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Oh my gosh, that is amazing. I just have to kind of like
let the air out of the room a little bit and just go. But I think, if we look around the room and the table, we will see a set of committed educators who are teaching ethnic studies, both here currently and then at our sites as well. Colleagues that weren't able to join us today, but what we have is a commitment by the teachers here currently to developing professionally their curriculum and their pedagogy to teach this course. We have been supported by Dr. Showman along with the Acosta Educational Partnership. And that educational partnership group is made up of educators, both college professors, classroom teachers, current practitioners, researchers who are living, thinking, and breathing about ethnic studies currently for K-12 education as well as beyond, right? What does it mean for our society? What does it mean in college and all of that? And so working with them, there's our picture there on the screen, working with them, starting back at the inception of the course, the partnership has evolved into kind of consistent, either quarterly, every few months development of both the course of study, as well as then all of the units. And so that's just a piece that's highlighted. One of the things that is also unique is that we're starting to bring in cohorts for both brand new ethnic studies teachers, teachers that have been teaching it for a few years, teachers also that are non-ethnic studies teachers, but that are interested. So how do I do ethnic studies in the science classroom, the math classroom, the US history classroom, the English classroom, in PE? What does that look like in all of those different spaces? And so that the tenets of ethnic studies really breathe through the entire school and through our entire district. So that's super unique and for San Mateo Union. And as you can see around the room, the teachers, there is this just commitment to sharing. There's a spirit of joy. I think when we get together, we share lessons. They're shared freely. Ideas are shared freely. People are learning from each other, best practices. And that is just making for a more consistent, unique, and just really amazing experience as an educator. And so I think we're all around the room very grateful for that, and working with the Acosta Educational Partnership as well. So thank you.
So before I got to teach ethnic studies, this is my first year teaching ethnic studies, and I've been teaching US history for a long time. And I've always been trying to teach US history through that ethnic studies lens. And so when I got the opportunity to go to PD as a non-ethnic studies teacher, I took it immediately and then started incorporating pieces. Now that I get to go through all of the PD though, I am really, really infusing my US history class with ethnic studies through that ethnic studies lens. So I have applied all the rituals we do in La Catch every period, but I also start the year by having them analyze it. And then at the end of each unit, I have them think about what they learned in that unit through the lens of in La Catch. So that's how they process, deciding what happened in that time period. Does that correspond with in La Catch? We start the year with the land acknowledgement. I had sort of a generic one that I was using. And after the amazing Advancing Ethnic Studies showcase, which several of our kids here participated in, I've adopted theirs because they are in my classrooms, right? Or my classroom, not rooms. It also opened the conversation about Native Americans. And we don't really, if you look at the state standards, there's not a lot in there, right? It's a little bit here, a little bit there. So it helped open that conversation and keep that conversation going on. We do it every Monday with opening circle. The students read it. Everything is led by them. And then at the end of each class period, students lead us through the unity clap and they call out Isang Bagsak. We also talk about what Isang Bagsak means. And then I link it back to the history. So it's perfectly fitted together The rituals, absolutely. I bring the Isang Bagsak and the Unity Clap back to not only the farm workers movement, United Farm Workers Movement, I also bring it as a space of this is what community can look like. And then we tap back to Inla and it all just comes together. The PD also for me, I'm big on restorative practices, and it has just taken it to a different level for me because the presenters model. There have been a couple times where I've watched them so skillfully and restoratively handle conflict with teachers, with staff. And so that helps me in my classroom be able to, just up my restorative practices a little bit. So some examples of that are also, we always do community circles in the PD trainings. And I've been bringing circles in and refining that practice for a long time. I feel like it just helped me turn a corner this year when I got to be in the PD and learn from the presenters. It also, I've been working my whole career to be an anti-racist teacher, which hasn't been easy because there's not a lot of instruction around that. I didn't, take a course on that when I was becoming a teacher. So I've been working on my own for a long time. And I feel like this was just, it pushed me off a plateau going through the ethnic studies PD. It's inspired me to more explicitly bring those tenets of ethnic studies into my US history curriculum. And they've shown me, they've modeled for me what anti-racist teaching really looks like. I leave there every time with a new idea, feeling challenged in the best way. And then I get to bring that back into my classroom with my students. Everybody's voices get centered in my classroom, no matter what course I'm teaching, because of the PD I've had. We talk a lot about the master narrative and the counter narrative. And now I have language that I can provide, and they get it freshman year, they get that foundation. So I don't have to reteach all of that once they get to junior year. It's saved me a lot of time this year. It really has. So I was able to do a lot more stuff because we did a quick review and they're like, "Bup, bup." And actually last week, my students did a Socratic seminar on Japanese American incarceration and the Zoot Suit riots. And kids were throwing around, oh, that's interpersonal racism and institutional racism. And I was like, yes. And these are kids I hadn't had before. So they're tapping back to that curriculum. Also, one of my goals the last few years has been honoring the FAIR Act. So making sure every unit has LGBTQIA+ depth in there. We're not just going to do something Black History Month. We're not just going to do something Asian American Pacific Islander History Month. It is infused every single day. And like I said about the Socratic seminar, it provides a framework for students to express what's happening around them, what's happening to them, and their responsibility in making this world a better place. Thank you.
Hello. Before I speak, I just want to celebrate the students who have taken time out of their day to speak today. I am completely in awe of you. It is my turn to talk and my little heart is going pitter patter, and you just came up here and just flawlessly spoke your mind. So thank you so much. My name is Jill Jacobs. I'm an educator at Hillsdale High School. I am in a very unique situation because I am a 7th year educator, but it is my first year in the district. And I am so grateful. Thank you so much for this opportunity to express to the board how grateful I am to and honored and humbled to be teaching this course and how empowered I feel to be teaching in this district. I also want to specifically thank Dr. Showman and Jackie Rogers. Thank you so much for the energy and time that you have given me as a new instructor in this district. To all of the colleagues in the ethnic studies family in the room, but also outside of the room. As soon as I took on this course, I was just uplifted by everybody else. The amount of resources that I received, the amount of curriculum that was passed my way, the amount of conversations that I was able to have with colleagues, one-on-one meetings over Zoom, and also, of course, larger gatherings of the ethnic studies family, and amazing transformational professional development. This last professional development that we had as a district actually brought me to tears, because this work is personal and transformational. And I feel so honored and lucky to be teaching this. I am also in a unique position because I am an English teacher. And I teach ALD. For those of you that don't know, that's academic language development. And I am able to bring the ethnic studies tenets and restorative practices into those classrooms every day. I am also constantly collaborating with other humanities instructors on my site and at other sites. We have discussions that are so similar to this about how are we bringing our students' culture and who they are as a person into our classroom. A part of some of my rituals are rooted in restorative practices, of which I've had training prior to this district. And I continue to make that and learn in my new setting to incorporate those into my classrooms all the time. So we have restorative circles in our ethnic studies class, but we also do that in our academic language development course and in my juniors English course as well. And it is a beautiful thing and a amazing opportunity to get to center my students' voices and to hear what they have to say regularly. It is very clear to me that the people in this district are committed to our students and to this course and to these tenets. I do not teach in a silo, I teach in a community, and that community is beautiful. I know this is a lifelong process, so I am committed to continuing this work. I am so very much looking forward to our meeting that we will have in April, in which we get to hear from our students and to continue to become the best educator that I can be for my students. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Nina Finzi. I'm the district ELD coordinator and the Bridge ELD teacher. I'm speaking today on behalf of myself and my colleague Jessica Valera, who is the district ITC coordinator and the Bridge science teacher. We also both serve as members of the district instructional leadership team. We're honored to be here today to offer also a slightly different perspective than the one you might have previously heard. We're not ethnic studies teachers, but we have participated in a year-long district ethnic studies professional learning cohort for general education teachers and a parallel year-long professional learning as members of the Bridge staff. Through our collective experience with ethnic studies, we can definitely say that understanding and applying ethnic studies tenets, pedagogy, and rituals has made us more thoughtful and engaged teachers and has helped us foster a stronger school community at Bridge. What is unique about Bridge, besides the fact that it is the program specifically designed to serve upperclassmen, newcomer English learners, is that we're the only school that has engaged in all staff ethnic studies training all year. Our team understands the power of collective efficacy and has thus included all the members of our school community: teachers, instructional aides, wellness counselor, social worker, and all our support staff in that essential, powerful training. Ethnic studies pedagogy and Inlakesh philosophy of "you are my other me" have been the cornerstones of what we have been learning about and trying to foster at our school. Through being in a circle together and getting to know one another on a deeper, more personal level has given us permission to live in our full humanity as educators and show up as such for our students every day. Through Dr. Shulman's mission and vision for our school, centered in ethnic studies tenets and in Lakesh, we're collectively able to build a school community where people, both students and staff, show up as their full selves for themselves and for each other. Our Bridge School community did not happen by accident, but was a direct result of what we have been learning about and applying through ethnic studies professional development. Ethnic studies communities are built with intentional focus on ethnic studies tenets. Some examples of these tenets that we have embraced at Bridge this year are being in community and culturally responsive, and creating sacred, healing, and regenerative spaces. As a result, the sense of connection and community in our classes is truly exceptional. At the January 26th board meeting, trustees Chavez and Jacobs commented on their Bridge visit by saying, I quote, "I cannot say enough good things about that program. I was very moved by what we saw." Another quote, "There was a lot of camaraderie among the students and with the staff. It was just really inspiring." And a third quote, "The level of engagement and support between the staff and the students is so incredible, and that is exactly why this program is so successful." This was also reaffirmed by the site administrators who visited on February 22nd and left notes to the teachers saying, I quote, "The culture in your classes was so welcoming, student-centered, and truly felt like their place." And another quote, "It was such a joy to see you in class today. The space you're creating is beautiful, human, full of life and hope." As a result of ethnic studies pedagogy that we have embraced at Bridge, students feel safe and included. They're ready to learn, take risks, and help each other. This is radically affecting our positive daily attendance, which directly correlates with our students' success in learning English and persisting in school to graduation. In closing, we would like to lift up the voices of our students who are impacted by our intentional emphasis on ethnic studies pedagogy. Lily says, "The Bridge program is a bridge with so many opportunities, especially for students like me who need a lot of support to continue their studies." Yoltik says, "Bridge feels like hope." Edward says, "Bridge sounds like happiness." Jennifer says, "Bridge is my second family." Stanley says, "Bridge is my home." It is our greatest hope that every student at Bridge continues to experience a humanizing education and feel like they have a new family. Our capacity to do this has grown because of the ethnic studies training we have received, and we look forward to learning more. Thank you, Ethnic Studies, and thank you, Dr. Shum.
Okay, we just have just a few more slides. We did want to talk about, as all things, everything has challenges, including preparing, to teach this class. So one semester goes by really fast when you're trying to tackle all of these topics. So, we've had to really think about where we started and where we are now, and how do you fit in all of these things in a semester. Teacher preparation programs. So I've been teaching, I have a social science credential, which I got a long time ago. This is almost my 20th year here in this district, and I was with a district previous to that. And it doesn't include ethnic studies yet. There are some schools, UCLA has a cohort, Cal State Northridge, Riverside, but our colleges and credential programs have not caught up yet to include ethnic studies in credentialing. So that means we have to do a lot of professional development in terms of, you're preparing teachers with pedagogy, with content, with curriculum, instruction, and there isn't always all of that time. I think when teachers were introducing themselves, you may have noticed they teach multiple subjects, not just ethnic studies. And so then there's the competing of, okay, we have professional learning. Do I go to government economics? Do I go to ethnic studies? I have AVID. So really thinking about that, we've tried to be as intentional as possible in providing that time and the collaboration time, but it's a lot. And then as we develop our program, our students are asking for more. So we have the Advancing Ethnic Studies class. Next year, we will be piloting a Latinx studies class at San Mateo to be responsive to that student population. Is we don't want to put ourselves in a position to be competing with already other established social science electives that exist, like sociology, psychology. And so it's really thinking about how do we work collaboratively in those spaces to make sure that doesn't happen. I'd like to invite two of our site administrators that will talk about our impact on school sites and communities, and then we'll finish off with impact on our students and be ready to have conversation and answer questions.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Pam Dzinski, and I'm the principal at Mills High School. I'd like to speak about the impact ethnic studies has on our school's professional development this year. This year, we used ethnic studies tenets to ground a student fishbowl. In August, all certified staff met with small groups of 4 to 5 students who discussed their experiences at Mills. And then teachers made connections between what they heard, our students talk about, our students' lived experiences at Mills with the tenants. An example of what I heard as their principal, I heard students talking about needing regenerative and healing spaces on our campus outside of the classroom. This resulted in opening back up our student spaces during lunch after a year of COVID, being closed for COVID, the beautification of our center court, the creation of a new student wellness center, and it also prompted the relocation of our leadership classroom to our library, a public space for student leaders to engage in discourse, plan, and learn. We then had each teacher identify one tenant that they continued to be curious about. And as you can see from the image up there, many of our teachers identified sacred and healing and regenerative spaces as being tenets that they wanted to learn about more in depth. In January, teachers submitted student work and used a protocol to examine that student work. They used the ethnic studies tenets and the anti-racist teaching rubric to think about the student work. Examples of that teacher reflection included our culinary arts teacher, who considered how food can be related to indigenous knowledge and learning, especially as it related to our community garden. An English teacher who thought about how an essay could prompt intergenerational narratives and be rooted in our students and their families' lived experiences. And a math teacher who reflected on how the concept of group work and group assessments could challenge hierarchies and power dynamics. So ethnic studies provides us with a framework that can be an innovative framework to approach teaching and learning in all of our subject areas. I'd also just like to direct you to some of the research included in the board memo. What the research says about ethnic studies is that assignment to an ethnic studies course significantly increases the probability of high school graduation among students near the 2.0 GPA threshold. It also shows increased measures of school engagement throughout high school, including attendance, as well as increased probability of students to enroll in college because they took an ethnic studies course in the 9th grade. This is powerful, powerful strategy.
Good evening, community members, members of the board and district cabinet. My name is Jesse Boyce, and I've had the opportunity most recently to teach a 1 semester of advancing ethnic studies at Hillsdale. Prior to that, I was the principal at Cappuccino High School during the first 4 years that the intro course was offered. This has given me an opportunity to engage closely with the curriculum, the instruction, and the assessment for both the intro and advancing courses. If I were to summarize my key takeaways, I'd want to begin with the student experience. Without citing specific quantitative metrics, it's fair to say that this course is second to none in terms of positive student feedback, identity affirmation, and application of learning in new ways, as you've seen this evening. While at CAP, I frequently dropped in to observe ethnic studies classes. There were consistently high levels of student participation, students grappling with complex ideas, and the generation of inquiry questions. I was proud of these observations, and it reminded me that this generation of youth will face inordinate challenges beyond our predictions, and they deserve an education which prepares them for such. Supporting this work, I have found ethnic studies professional learning, which I've participated in both as a teacher and an administrator, to offer a transformative pedagogical approach. For those who are not in the profession of teaching, pedagogy is a fancy word for like, how do you do it, right? When I began teaching the course, the first thing that a colleague told me was, it's what they learn and how they feel learning it. These strengths are harnessed so that the learning process and products benefit both the individual and the community. This is not always the case in our other courses. For better or worse, we have a deeply entrenched individual and competitive academic model. I do not arrive to you today to critique that model, but to offer a reminder, as our colleagues have used the word balance numerous times, that balance is necessary. Both the individual and community matter. Thank you for reminding us of that balance, Mr. Mondolongo. I believe this is particularly true for students who have experienced years of individual failing marks in school. A reproduction of their experience will not interrupt that cycle. I am thankful that Intro to Ethnic Studies offers a space to heal and rejuvenate. Similarly, I recall listening to a teacher panel last year. I was struck at how grateful our colleagues were for their professional learning, community, and the opportunity to teach ethnic studies. In a world where there are very real teacher shortages, this success should be highlighted as we seek to retain the most talented educators. I'd like to conclude my remarks by asking us to center the language in our SMUHSD administrative regulations on racial equity. Directly from the ARs, the historical roots and contemporary manifestations of racial prejudice and discrimination, white privilege, white supremacy culture, anti-Blackness, implicit bias, institutional racism, mass incarceration, and liberation. In addition, it calls us to directly provide learning methods for addressing racial tension and conflict transparently and directly. I can only speak to my own experience and observations, but ethnic studies is one of the places on our campuses, of which I have worked at 3 of, where this happens most consistently. I am so proud to be a part of this district, and I am very, very proud of the collective approach taken to create this course, these courses, and I'm proud of our district's proactive steps to create a more inclusive model in our schools. Thank you.
Hi all, I think I'm one of the final adult speakers before we get to some more students. So I am a former ethnic studies teacher and I'm a current MTSS coordinator as well as activities director at my school site. As we've heard from board presentations in the past, the work of MTSS, our tiers of support, as well as student activities, has adapted and expanded to meet the changes in student body needs in a rapidly changing world. This has been exacerbated by a global pandemic and the subsequent traumas of recent years. In both of these roles as MTSS coordinator and activities director, I've worked with students to address our community and culture and continue to strive to make all feel welcome, safe, and supported on our campus. As our senior class, the first to experience ethnic studies their freshman year, prepares to graduate in May, the impact that the course has had on our campuses and in this work in these past 4 years has been incredibly inspiring and rewarding. At our schools, we want to create a culture where students feel supported, empowered, and prepared to engage with the world around them. And I've been able to see how ethnic studies has laid a foundation for students to do so in a humanizing and truly powerful way. Our students are better able to have difficult conversations where they go beyond superficial ideas to truly address the root issues of what is concerning them. When I think about the goals of both the Student Equity Council as well as our leadership programs, it comes back to community, making sure that all students feel valued on our campuses. Because our students are able to understand systems of oppression, but more importantly, also feel empowered and prepared to tap into their own agency as change makers, as allies, as co-conspirators, and thus engage with these issues, I see how our programs have improved throughout these past several years. When we look at our data from our panorama surveys, as well as other anecdotal gatherings, we know that there is much work to be done, but truly our students are partners in this work because they've been prepared by the program of ethnic studies their freshman year. This is our second year with the Student Equity Council, an entity that was created in response to the grand jury report's finding of micro and macroaggressions that had occurred on our campuses throughout the district. As the adults in our district have working to dismantle systems of oppression that perpetuates harm, our students are also doing the work as well. Each site's council of students have been given the space to discuss concerns on their campuses, as well as supports to actually address these concerns. Students have been meeting consistently throughout the past 2 years with their MTS coordinator, me and others on our sites, administrators and other resources on campuses, as well as trainers from the Youth Catalyst Liberatory Leadership Program, an outside organization that the district has partnered with to support this work. In every meeting and during our time together, our trainers have remarked that our students have been able to both respond to real world and difficult situations and concepts, as well as demonstrate an ability to engage in productive responses. Our student equity councils are diverse, seeking to give voice to all students, and especially those who've been marginalized by traditional educational system. Because of this, the kids in the room come from a variety of backgrounds and experiences. The preparation that they've received in ethnic studies their freshman year has prepared them to engage in discourse and dialogue, even when discussing controversial and/or contentious subjects. Again, this would not have been possible without our students experiencing ethnic studies their freshman year. As my colleagues have so eloquently shown in this in the course, we discuss issues that are facing our students and their community in ways that are humanizing and fruitful. The course also allows students to learn how to process and engage with difficult ideas and concepts, and I've witnessed this occur time and time again in the Student Equity Council, as well as in our leadership classes, as students are able to have conversations in which they both listen and learn from each other and truly practice equity work. As they embrace their diverse and unique opinions, they know that these experiences that they bring to the group only strengthens it and helps them work to achieve their goals. The work in the Student Equity Council and leadership would not be so fruitful or meaningful without the foundation that all students have received through our ethnic studies program. Our students are more empowered and prepared to engage with the world around them, and I'm incredibly proud to be a partner in their learning and witness their great strides that they have made and continue to do so. I'm so incredibly proud of these kids. It is amazing every single day to get to work with them, to get to hear from them. We want to center our students. We really want to make them feel engaged and empowered. And the work that we've done in ethnic studies and continue to do in this district makes me so incredibly proud to be an educator here. And I'm really grateful to have this opportunity to get to share more and speak more about this powerful work that we're doing. So I think enough with adults. It's time to hear from some students. So we're going to start with a student from Mills, Liam Glass Hussein.
Hi, my name is Liam. I'm a junior at Mills. I took ethnic studies second semester of my online freshman year. I wasn't really into anything. I wasn't feeling connected to any of my classes. It was all pretty dreary. Then in the very first lecture of my ethnic studies class, my teacher brought up the Indian resistance movement, which was something that I've cared about for a long time very deeply. For the first time, I saw myself and my identity shown academically. That's why I can remember it so clearly, because it was the first time I realized that who I was on a personal level really mattered in that class. There were a lot of first moments like that, but none quite so abrupt. Talking about biracial, LGBT, and Jewish identity really captured my attention. But it was the things I found most interesting, were the things that were new to me. One important thing that ethnic studies taught me was that for every aspect of my own life that I wished I saw reflected more, there were a million other experiences that I knew nothing about. It helped me grow as a person and learn to empathize with other people's lives, and this was not by accident. The course was centered around that process, asking for our reflections to the content we were learning, and I had never had a class where this was desired. This experience led me to go into Student Equity Council and leadership. In that, I have found a voice. Many other classes and school activities feel distant, like they have no relation to our real lives and daily lived experiences. It's hard to truly feel seen in that content when you find yourself, especially if you find yourself having a different background. The stereotype of leadership is that it's all jocks and popular kids and what have you. And I know that change has been and continues to be made in the district as the history we're taught continues to look more and more like a group process. Yet in ethnic studies and SEC, we strive to make those connections between the people of the past and who we are today. And we use that to inform our leadership activities. Because of what we've learned, we're able to share and embrace each other's perspectives on a new level and understand the roots of what we're working on. Personally, this wouldn't have been possible without my freshman year ethnic studies experience. And this matters especially in our district, where the students are primarily non-white, and yet we have wound up in the news several times for instances of hate on our campuses. This incongruence can also be seen in the fact that I am lucky enough to be in a district that prides itself on progress, but this class might look very different in the future. If this happens, students who don't see themselves in the content will be isolated, and students who won't have the opportunity to see other perspectives will be limited. And overall, ethnic studies is a class that's going to open up barriers and inform how we do all activities on campus. Thank you.
I'd also like to invite Cappuccino Senior and current Advancing Ethnic Studies student, Ava Sell.
Hi, my name is Ava Sell and I'm a senior at Cappuccino, and this is my second year taking ethnic studies. Throughout my time in school, I have learned stories, information, and people from a white lens. Yes, I am also white, so I have heard my stories being told, though they are not my stories. They are just the histories that we are taught about people in the past who have the same race and skin tone as me. I am white, but I am also Hispanic and have lived with a disconnect from that side of my identity my whole life. I have had people deepen my disconnect by telling me that I am lying when I say that I am Hispanic. I've had family have deal with assimilation and racism, and those effects have passed down to me, and I have dealt with not feeling a part of either side of my family. For me, having a class like ethnic studies that focuses on exploring and sharing and affirming the different parts of myself and my heritage is liberating. I have learned more about myself in this course than in any history class, and I feel as though that is due to being able to share our stories. I have a German heritage, but that does not make learning about Hitler learning about my story. In ethnic studies, I get to explore and tell parts of my story, and my story is my past and present, not anyone else's. Ethnic studies is not built on hate or putting others down. It is built around community, and it is rooted in love and liberation. And throughout my time in this course, I can say I felt that. When people said I was lying when I was Hispanic, I would become quiet and even question if I was wrong, even though I can't be wrong about my own ethnicity. Ethnic studies have helped me proudly say that I am an Hispanic woman and I am asexual. At the beginning of the school year, we had an assignment to dedicate our work to someone important to us, and I dedicated mine to my great-grandmother, Stella Solorzano. And even with my trigger of touch and our language barrier, ethnic studies has helped me feel closer and connected to her, as well as other family members. I'm grateful for this course and all that it's taught me, and I'm hoping that others can feel the same way. So I hope I earn the privilege of your time.
I'd like to invite up Nancy Zuniga Gonzalez, current in Ethnic Studies Advancing Scholar, ELD soccer coach, and Cappuccino Senior.
Hi, my name is Nancy Zuniga. I'm 18 years old and I'm a student at Cappuccino High School. I'm also a restorative justice leader on campus. My job is to heal harm on campus. I deal a lot with the conflict department and the elite department, so I'm also an advocate for the ELD students. And I'm also the Cappuccino FC assistant soccer coach. Ethnic studies has been one of my favorite classes I've ever taken in high school. It has changed the way I was as a student in ninth grade. It is the same reason why I decided to take this class again, because of how much I enjoyed being part of this community. Ethnic studies is not only a class, but a community within a classroom. It was key to help us connect to our teachers and classmates, to build that trust and love within ourselves, to become like a family. Both of my teachers, Ms. Rodriguez and Ms. Rogers, have helped me find a voice I never knew I had. In ninth grade, I started off being the student who sat in the back and never said a word. Until my teacher showed me the comfort and the beauty of participating in a classroom, I felt very out of place in high school. But thanks to this class, I had a home. In ethnic studies, I have learned to listen to other people's stories who are just like me. The pain and the fight our ancestors went through, it helped us understand that we matter too. Learning about the history of our people has helped us connect to each other. It made us want to learn more about our ancestors and what they've gone through, to find out why I'm not just Salvadoran and Mexican, but to find out as to why I'm Salvadoran, Mexican, American. Ethnic studies has helped me find my identity and my voice, and I know that other people in my community were able to find that too. In this class, we show up for each other and we help one another. If there's one thing I want you all to know about ethnic studies, is the heart. Because the heart of ethnic studies is what brings this community together. My teachers not only just taught me in class, but they impacted me. The impact of the classroom will be the spark that will change students' lives. It will give many other students like me the opportunity to find their identity, their voice, but most importantly, their heart. Thank you.
And lastly, I wanted to invite up our final student speaker, Cappuccino Student Body President, former Advancing Ethnic Studies Scholar, Katie Lopez.
Good evening, board members, parents, teachers, and fellow students. My name is Cadence Lopez. I've come here today because of what I understand is the spread of misleading and disparaging information that has surrounded the ethnic studies program. It is important that you not only have the paradigm from a teacher or person in power, but from a student who has been through both the introductory and advanced course, more importantly, a mixed race student. I am the perfect example of how ethnic studies has the power and recourse over a student's life. It was able to give me a lens of critical consciousness about the history of my people while educating me about the history of many, many others. This class does not have one dominant narrative, it has many. It is a safe space for all students to come together in solidarity, which in my opinion is what makes ethnic studies so special and beautiful. Through ethnic studies, I've gained both the knowledge, power, and tools to be the best person I can be while becoming a leader, which leads me here. I'm the senior class president of Cappuccino High School. What I've gained from this class is what I give to the community is cultural wealth, and my input and presence matters in my school. The key to ethnic studies is having an open heart while embracing the differences of others. Correlating to this board meeting, being a good citizen means listening to others' opinions even when you don't agree with them. In today's society, many households have mixed cultural backgrounds, and one culture is no more important than the other. Therefore, as a Mexican American and Norwegian, culture is defined differently by everyone who uses this term, including myself. Diversity is not a discussion in my home, rather a way of life. And in no way is one path the right path. I come from a family of Mexican tias and tios, European aunts and uncles, Black cousins, Israeli aunts and uncles, and have even enjoyed Arabic food at my boyfriend's family gatherings. We have learned that by lifting each other up and embracing differences, we have a much richer life and can celebrate and grieve our differences together instead of finding a villain or champion. Ethnic studies playing a key role in this outside of a classroom environment. Celebrating the aspects of what makes you who you are does not disparage anyone else, and we should all be good neighbors to each other to celebrate and learn together instead of outlining and emphasizing what makes us different. San Mateo Union High School District prides themselves on being an anti-racist school district. Based off the demographics of many of our schools, any negative recourse taken on the ethnic studies programs will be more harmful than helpful. So here I stand today hand in hand with the people who have given me my precious knowledge and have taught me to love myself and what makes up my identity. I'd like to leave you with what is said to be the foundation of what ethnic studies is built on. En la quech, tú eres mi otro yo, you are my other me. Si te hago daño a ti, if I do harm to you, me hago daño a mí mismo. If I love myself, si te amo y respeto, if I love and respect you, me amo y respeto yo, I love and respect myself. Thank you.
Ed, did you have, okay. Thank you all. I wanted to, again, this is the last time I'm on the mic, but I just wanted on mic. I just wanted to thank you. I wanted to thank the district and my colleagues and my family here because this has been, again, like many of my colleagues have said, the course that I have been waiting my entire career to teach. It's empowering, it's transformative, and it's healing. And again, those students are the ones that we are in service to every day as board trustees, as administrators, and as teachers. And they inspire me every single day and remind me of why I'm here. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So thank you all. Before we transition to the next component, I just want to thank our speakers. So Dr. Lee, thank you so much. Our eloquent students who are amazing tonight, our educators, and everyone who presented. So one big round of applause. So with that, I'm going to open it up. Since this is a study session, we want to open up. Hopefully people were listening, and I'm opening this to the audience and public comments. So if you'll bear with me, I have to take off my glasses. Oh. No.
I just want to see if we could take a bio break for 5 minutes before we.
You can anytime.
Okay.
You know, everyone's allowed to take off. I think I saw a few people leave already. I think Superintendent Booker took off and came back, so don't worry. I think you're allowed.
Public comments.
So
last time there was a form to fill out.
I'm about to tell you what to do. Okay, so I don't lose total control of the meeting. If you're joining in person, or you wish to make a comment on the agenda, you need to fill out a blue form that our secretary has, and there's them in the back. Okay. What you'll do is in this form, you give it to the secretary on this agenda item. If you're joining us virtually, you should have given us an email and we would have those ability to do it. Just raise their hand. Okay, I thought we were going to do email. All right. So if you are joining us virtually, you'll need to use the raised hand feature on the Zoom to be recognized. When you do so by the board president, for each, you will be admitted as a panelist and you will be able to speak during the public period right now. The board president will call on you. Please note that comments are limited to, depending on how long or how many, I might limit this. We are a little behind. I think we're going to be done at 5, but you guys were amazing, so I'm not going to take anything away from any of that. But I might limit comments because of how many. This is supposed to be an iterative conversation, and I want the board to be able to ask questions and answer questions and have a discussion. So I may limit the amount of time talking. So with that, do we have any in person?
At this point, we have 3, but we may get more. I see another one coming. If you
Okay.
could pass that down, please.
All right. Do we have any hands raised online?
We have 4 hands raised online.
So here's how as chair, this is what I'm going to do. It's not going to all be Zoom. I'm going to intertwine Zoom and in person because I don't want it to be just hearing it from one angle. So if Shar is okay with it, I'll take one person online and then we'll do an in person.
So online first?
Online first and then in person. Okay. And
how many minutes, President Lane?
Let's do the 3 regular. Let's just keep it to 3.
Okay. Our first speaker is Chris Robel.
Chris, can you hear us?
Please unmute.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
There you, yes, now we can hear you. You have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Chris Robel, Redwood City. And yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to speak on this. I have concerns with the district's approach on ethnic studies. And honestly, I think there needs to be a careful balance here. I know the term liberated is the district's term, but obviously and my daughter was in a program called Social Justice Pathways, right, which was an optional program. And I had some, there were some good things about it, but there were some bad things as well. And I think what really counts is the content. And I think it's really, really important that, resiliency, right? These students are learning and they're preparing, and we don't want to be teaching kids how to be entitled versus empowered. When we don't want to teach them to be victims, we want to teach them to be victors. And I think when we start talking about, power and oppression and dominance and, the oppressors and the victors and anti-racist, I mean, you can create this mentality where it's almost self-fulfilling and it's debilitating, and you're reliant on, others, right? And you have this chip on your shoulder where you're owed something. So I think it's really important to have a balanced viewpoint in how this is looked at. And I believe this program was actually rejected by the state for some inappropriate bias. I don't know exactly the details of that, but I really would request a full review of this so that it's really understood and we make sure that it's, and my daughter, who's now 20, had concerns. She looks back and she thinks things should have been different. So I would really encourage a full review of this before we just jump in head first. And when you're in it and you're, at the time she loved it, and I know there are other people that felt the same way. I would really just make sure that the kids are really being prepared to be victors and resilient members of society and not feeling like, woe is me, right, kind of thing. And there's obviously, and I'm only emphasizing the parts where I'm hoping to be constructive here, but obviously good things as well, and people feeling good about themselves is important and whatnot. So anyway, thank you for your time and for considering.
Thank you. All right. Next, we're going to have someone in person. So who's our in-person person?
Joy Henry.
Joy Henry, come on up. Like I said, you have 3 minutes.
Hello, Superintendent Booker, Board President Land, and Board of Trustees. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. My name is Joy Pasamonte Henry. My 2 older daughters graduated from Mills High School, and my youngest is a freshman there. I understand we're all here today to gain a better understanding of the district's ethnic studies curriculum. For anyone who has taken the opportunity to oppose the curriculum, to discredit our educators who work to put it together, I can only hope you have truly listened to the educators and students here who have come here today to share their time and expertise with us.
Yeah.
I personally know 3 of the educators, Ms. Zink, Ms. Dove, and Principal Dzinski. They have dedicated their entire lives to ensuring our students not only have the best education possible, but that they learn to stand on their own. And our educators work to build a truly inclusive community. Mills is known to produce exceptional scholars, but what people may not know is that their work, this ethnic studies curriculum, makes our students, our children, feel heard and seen. As an Asian immigrant, I was told I needed to blend in, lose my first language so I wouldn't speak English with an accent. Fortunately, it's different for my 15-year-old multiracial daughter. Because of the exceptional educators and support she has, because of courses like ethnic studies, she feels empowered to speak up, to learn more, and that there is a possibility for her to not only survive like those before her, but to thrive. For my neurodivergent daughter who struggles with traditional classroom settings, a class like this allows her to think critically and teaches her a history that includes her story and the struggles and triumphs of underrepresented communities. It gives her confidence and, most importantly, gives her tools to be an inclusive and thoughtful citizen. We cannot fix the atrocities or wrongs of those who came before us, but we should strive to do better by recognizing the fractures in history and our society. We should continue to figure out ways to do better, together and not apart. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm going to call online.
Next will be Nadia Flamenco.
All right. Nadia, can you hear us? Nadia?
Please unmute.
Hello.
There you go. All right, you
Okay.
have 3 minutes.
All right, thank you. To me, what I heard exposition, and I'm Salvadoran too, and to me, the agenda that I heard through what it was exposed is completely sounds like socialist and left agenda. You guys were exposing about hate police, and you were not exposing what happened when in society is in a disorder. Also, I heard about discrimination, when the biggest discrimination is financial discrimination, instead of talking about the past and why this race is so hated and everything. You should talk about the future and what is the big difference between having a financial difference. It doesn't matter the color at the end. We have been having discrimination in our own colors for histories. We know Black slaves came from Black owners, rich owners who sold them. So there is a lot of things that to me was a shame for the teacher who was talking about transgender sexism and sex in class. I believe you guys are being responsible of talking to kids that are in puberty who's supposed to choose what they want in life, and you guys are brainwashing kids, forcing them and pushing the transgender agenda for kids to decide in puberty what they should like, what they should want, when I believe it should be really intimate, and you guys are in the responsibility just about talking, okay, this is your biology, this is how it works, but sex is something that it should be really private to their kids and their own decisions in life. And you guys pushing the transgender agenda over kids is irresponsible. I believe that also, if you're talking about transgender, you should talk about all the side effects kids have been or adults have been having, medical procedures hurting their bodies or even their minds. So this is a topic that it should be really, as parents, we should be seeing what are you guys talking to our kids. We still are their parents, and they're not an adult. We know that for you have to have 21 years to drink, to tattoo yourself, to go to work. So as well, I believe that's their own decision, and you guys are pushing the agenda too much. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll have someone in person.
Yes, Andrew Nimicello. I'm sorry if I.
Andrew Nimcello? Nimicolo, sorry. Yes.
Hi, my name is Andrew Nimicolo. I am a parent of a San Mateo student. I'm a volunteer here at the school. I'm also a former school teacher and in the classroom, and taught classes about foreign language and other cultures. And really, I think we have a lot of potential with the ethnic studies program here today. I also think we can make it better. And so that's one of the things I want to talk to all of you about, and really is talk about, first of all, the process. Today is called a study session. The reality is I haven't seen a lot of, other than maybe the next few minutes, a lot of opportunity for some critical insight. And I haven't seen from the over 2 hours of educators, teachers, and students, maybe looking at how can we improve the program. And that's a spirit in which I hope you'll take my comments. I believe that ethnic studies can and should go on. I saw some really awesome speeches by some of the students, really brave, and I think that's awesome. At the same time, I think we should recognize and use some of the same critical thinking skills that I imagine are used in the ethnic studies program in regards to looking at the program. You know, the students who were invited today and were encouraged to speak, I imagine, were some of the students who are the most engaged in the content. But, you know, let's not be shy in looking at hearing from some of the students who maybe were not so engaged. And I would ask some of the teachers in the room, did you invite some of the kids who maybe weren't as comfortable in ethnic studies or maybe had concerns? Did you encourage them to come? Did you give them that same support? And did they feel comfortable coming into this setting, kind of speaking, you know, about maybe with some constructive feedback? I don't know the answer there, but I would ask you to think about that. So regarding process, I don't have really well-prepared notes. I think many people had some really well-prepared speeches, and I put mine together really in the last 24 hours. And that's what I would talk to you about. I was here on February 9th, 34 days ago, and there was a lot of time to put together a report. And it came out Monday at 5 o'clock, less than 48 hours notice. It's not a lot of time to prepare for parents to really engage. And given just the overwhelming amount of time that's been devoted up front with a carefully coordinated approach, it doesn't feel like parents are having input here. So what are my 2 points? One is, I hope this won't be the last session. I hope that we'll have more time to discuss, because many of the things that I saw up on the screen are awesome and really important. Second of all, I would encourage all of you to have a really professional attitude. I know that there were speakers on Zoom with whom many of us may not agree, but I saw from the board members, teachers, and even students, I saw a lot of kind of expressions and disrespect in the room. And even if we don't agree with some of those folks, I think it's important to I think it is important to at least listen and hear folks out. My final concern is the anti-Semitic bias that is in the program. And I'm really concerned for all the focus on underrepresented groups, that Dr. Showman's documented history of anti-Israel background and can I finish I'd like to finish my sentence. One of the worst genocides in the world, the systemic, I'm seeing people shaking their heads, the systemic, this is exactly what I'm pointing out. Everybody should be included. And
sorry, all I want you to do is finish
I
your
see
overtime.
28 seconds. So I'm
no,
following
you're
that.
30 seconds over.
Oh, okay.
That's why I was trying to get your attention.
My request is that in a time when anti-Semitism is only rising more and more, and we feel vulnerable and unsafe in this community, that all students feel safe and that tools to combat anti-Semitism and Holocaust education be implemented in a meaningful way, so that this program is not the pet project of one or two administrators, but is truly inclusive of all the students in the classroom.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to go to online.
By the name of Jomo.
Okay, Jomo, are you there?
Please unmute.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
That always seems to work. Okay, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Jomo Thompson. I have a child who is a 9th grader at Hillsdale High School. And I appreciate the time to speak tonight. I did not prepare comments. I mostly just came to listen. I realize you can't see me. I am a person of color, Black, multiracial, and I worked, I'm a corporate lawyer now, but I've worked in the past on human rights matters and prison rights matters. And last fall, when our ethnic studies teacher opened a invitation to parents to come and listen to the presentations, I went because I wanted to listen. And as tonight, I wanted to listen. And I go into all that background to say that I'm very hopeful for what the goals of ethnic studies is and what I hope that what I want to be accomplished. Some of the stories of the students in particular were quite beautiful in feeling loved and appreciated and heard in school. However, when I went to visit the class and I saw the presentations, what I heard was quite different from the presentations that were given tonight. And the most important thing I guess I would point out in this limited time was it really seemed to be about assessing blame on certain groups of people. And I would have thought that, had I known better, I would have thought that the assignment from the teachers was the students were to come up and explain how fill in the blank had been oppressed by fill in the blank, full stop. I did not hear diversity of opinion. I heard the same mantra spoken again and again by students who, many of them perhaps simply wanted a good grade. I do not mean to take away from the wonderful stories of students tonight or the hours of education. My mother was a public school teacher for many, many years. It's what I did before I went to law school that go into it. And I believe these positive stories, but I was very concerned by what felt like going to sort of the easy win of blame, of looking in particular at incarceration and police tactics. And again, I say this as a Black man, there are problems in this society that go beyond what white people do to Black people. There are more complicated questions than that. I've worked in criminal justice. I've worked with prosecutors. I've worked in prisoner treatment, and the problems go beyond identity and they go beyond race. And I felt like the students have been given an oversimplified explanation of very complex, very difficult problems. And I think it's important to talk about race, but I didn't hear diversity of opinion. I didn't hear diversity of thought. I heard students speaking a new mantra, another pledge of allegiance to just a new mantra that was not diversified. It was not thoughtful. It was just repeat after me. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we have one more speaker.
We have three
more in person.
Mhm.
Okay, so next in person
Blair
speaker.
Fingerhut.
Blair. And we have to reset the clock, so to 3 minutes.
To walk here.
No worries. No, we had to reset the clock anyway. So you have 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Blair Fingerhut, and I'm a current Bearcat mom. I'm also where's my Bearcat? I'm also vice president of the Athletic Boosters, and I'm terrified to speak right now. My heart is in my throat. I'm really, really scared. So what I'm trying to say is that I took great notes, which let me just pull up. There was a lot of talk about love being the underpinning, and in Unit 2 talking about racism. But when I heard anything about anti-Semitism, there was this visceral response. So my question is that like an okay people to be biased against or to be racial against, like racist against, excuse me, again, my throat is in my... So is that acceptable? If so much of this is the underpinnings of love and understanding, and if it's viewed, well, Jews are privileged, so we don't really need to talk about them. Why is it Jews have to have private armed guards to go to worship? So I'm not sure, and I don't know why we have to have a teacher. I don't understand some of this reactions. No, I understand.
But one person gets to talk at a time, and you're on.
So I just question, is that okay? Is it okay to not include the Holocaust? We know that there's been a huge number of anti-Semitism. We know there's like Jews that are getting killed in their places of worship. And so why is that left out? And there is a direct correlation of not talking about the Holocaust. I'm super lucky. I'm very privileged. I went to a liberal arts high school, which was known as a communist high school, because we took people that were blacklisted when everyone got kicked out of high schools back in the 1940s and 30s. And I went to a really small liberal arts Quaker college. So I understand that this is great and that we need to continue this. But again, this idea of like, who are we leaving out? And I know it's only one semester, it's super short. There's no way y'all can get everything in. I totally get that. But to not include anti-Semitism when you're talking about racism feels like why is that acceptable? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Online?
Jennifer Way.
Jennifer Way? How many more? Because I'm going to have to cut off at some point. So
I have one more online.
one more online, and how many in person?
3 more in person.
Okay,
We'll be
I'm
done.
cutting it off at that.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Wonderful. All right. So here we go. Thank you again for the time tonight. I'm so incredibly moved and inspired by our district students and colleagues. I've been sitting here completely wrapped in my classroom after a field trip. And so thank you. I'm so grateful in the spirit of transparency and of healing and of just lifting up multiple perspectives. I do also want to acknowledge that I'm a teacher at Hillsdale High School. I graduated from Aragon High School. I taught at Aragon High School for the last 14 or 15 years, and now I'm at Hillsdale. So I've had the incredible privilege of teaching at multiple high schools in our district and of having been graduated from one of our high schools. I was also a molecular and cell biology and ethnic studies major in college. So that is my bias. And I also want to lift up that, I want to say that we're hearing I'm also hearing things like centering curriculum on student identity encourages narcissism. As our Redwood City community member lifted up that ethnic studies talks about victims and victors, and that dichotomy is obviously limited, let's say. Yeah, I totally agree with that. I hear that, again, I hear a lot of the sort of like anti-Semitism. That's certainly, as far as I know, not part of the ethnic studies curriculum. I could be desperately wrong, but yeah, again, I do believe that we do not promote anti-Semitism in the ethnic studies curriculum. I do also want to say that I've heard all of this, and I think that there is every possibility that on a bad day that this is the fallout of not understanding the curriculum. I think that the curriculum is strong. I think that the curriculum is about healing, is about the sacred, is about is about just, again, welcoming different perspectives and having that core of difference. And I think that what's so transformative about this course is that that won't look like the way that we have traditionally done school. It will look not super rigorous, even though you see the incredible curriculum tonight. I think that we're still going to see attacks on ethnic studies as being less rigorous or being biased the other way. And I think we're still working within these frameworks that lack imagination, that are not rooted in where people are coming from now, in disrupting, I think, what we have traditionally done and taught in the classroom, and reimagining our classroom as a transformative space for people to come together and build something new. That's, again, what I think that we will continue to see. So I just encourage everybody, sorry that I'm over my time. I encourage everyone to just continue.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Okay.
Okay.
In
Chris,
person?
Chris Cavioli.
Chris Cavioli.
Okay, hi, this is Chris. I come here as a peacemaker, and I want to say uplift, yes, put downs, no. Okay, a little bit about myself. I have a multi-ethnic background myself. I'm from Switzerland, in America. See, I have a Swiss passport and a US passport. And I was born, well, Switzerland, just in case you don't know, is a place that has 4 national languages, and everyone speaks at least 2 of them, plus usually English, and I speak 5 languages. I was born in Massachusetts. My dad was from France, of Italian and Algerian parents. My mom was Swiss, of Swiss and German parents, and my father was actually a refugee after the 6th grade in his own country. He spent time in a Nazi prison during World War II, and luckily he got let out. I went to school in America and in Switzerland, and actually worked in Germany afterwards. And my wife was standing here just before. She's from Singapore, of Chinese background. So I'm all mixed up. No, I have a lot of ethnic background. A lot of my personal friends are Persians. And I spent a lot of time abroad with people in Africa, in India, in Thailand, and in Nepal. And when I was in Kenya, I spent time with people that are Kikuyus, Maasai, the Gujaratis, the Sikhs, and Ismailis. There's a lot of multicultural in a lot of places. Again, uplift, yes, put downs, no. So what I think, the only one I want to say here is that we must avoid accidentally teaching any kind of hatred or division, like you heard in some of the comments just before. Avoid conflating victim and oppressor with skin color, because skin color has nothing to do with who's victor and who's oppressor, right? But instead teach unity, love, understanding, and non-discrimination, not discrimination, but non-discrimination. And we have to avoid some of these trigger words and stuff that I think some people are commenting about. And we have to just be very careful that we don't preach any kind of hatred or shame or guilt against whites or men or Europeans, because they aren't bad people. There's always a bad apple anywhere you look at, but there's also students in the classes that could be offended or marginalized if something preaches that, whites are suppressors or things like that. And marginalization of any people group is exactly what we're trying to avoid. And I want to just say, during the Civil War in America, some whites were slave owners, we know that, but also many whites gave their life to stop slavery. That's how this nation was reunited, right? And so I grew up in the Boston area, and Boston has a history of discrimination against Irish people and against Italian people, right? There was signs up like, don't apply here if you're Irish. So let's not get discrimination and racism confused with skin color. I think that's one of the main points I want to make, because in Boston, there's even a thing about Red Sox versus the White Sox. So anyways, again,
We're at
uplift,
time,
yes,
Mr. Cavioli.
and put downs, no. So let's avoid any
Thank
negative
you.
words.
Thank you.
We have our last online speaker, R.S. Patel.
RS, can you hear us? Unmute. That usually does it.
Please unmute.
Oh,
She always
can you hear me?
See?
Yes.
You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you all. So first, background, I'm
mixed race brown person. I would like to echo what I've heard before. I think the curriculum does not have diversity of thought or diversity of opinion. While there's positive things about ethnic studies, and I do believe that we need to learn about each other, I think that the current curriculum is trying more to divide us, blame each other. We need to teach collaborations. We need to teach acceptance. There a lot of critical issues built into this curriculum, and it's not surprisingly based on the person who was basically responsible for writing the majority of it or navigating. I'm talking about Samia Schumann. I know she's here, but when she was in Hillsdale High School, she spread blood libels against Jews. She rationalized suicide bombing.
You know what? This is a study session about ethnic studies, not about Dr. Showman. So can you please just keep your comments about ethnic studies, please?
So for a person with a conflict of interest should not be involved.
Excuse me. Did you hear what I just said?
Right.
This is about ethnic studies. If you want to address that, I appreciate it and want to hear your remarks. Okay.
My remark is that we have a curriculum, and the district hired a consulting company, a Costa Educational Partners or partnership that is led by people who have clear anti-Semitic bias. And hence it's hard for a lot of people to understand when you go and teach teachers or how to handle a class. A lot of the examples or a lot of the unwritten stuff that you don't see and people do not explain are coming from her inherent bias. We had a lot of for now 2 hours and 15 minutes, a lot of people defending the curriculum, but there's no genuine attempt to discuss.
Excuse me? Are you still there?
No, he's not.
Okay. Comment down. That was our last online?
Correct.
Okay. Do we have more in person?
Yes, we do. Brittany Redgate?
Brittany?
Hi,
Okay.
hi. I was not planning on speaking, so this is quite extemporaneous, but I am, so bear with me. I am struck in listening to how, as a 10 years in this district as an English teacher, I have never been asked for a board session to talk about a text like Othello, which proposes, racist stereotypes against the Black protagonist, antagonist, however you read that. I've never been asked to defend Romeo and Juliet, which teaches you that your life isn't worth living if you don't find a romantic partner. I've never been asked to defend Lord of the Flies, which teaches you that you need an authority figure to tell you what to do. And it just, the list can go on. The Great Gatsby and like the feminist wisp, that is the female character. But I just feel like these are examples of how the dominant narrative is never questioned. And I think if you look at ethnic studies myopically, you can see it as a biased curriculum. And if you broaden that lens to see the entire curriculum as biased, you begin to understand how the voices of those who are canonized, like William Shakespeare or the multitude of other white ethnocentric voices, have been celebrated throughout history. So I think that this exists as a counter narrative, and it exists as a place to unpack those dominant narratives. And I think that without it, the dominant narrative continues to persist in our curriculum as canon. So I yield my time, but it's just it feels so obvious that those texts have never been questioned. And I'm curious if we're going to do a board session at all around those texts at some point. Thank you.
So we have 2 more speakers, and then the board who loves to talk will get to talk. Okay.
Kai Daggett?
Hi.
Hello, my name is Kai Doggett. I am a parent of a freshman at San Mateo High School who spoke today. I'm also a board trustee at the Pacifico School Board Elementary District. So I've actually met some of you before in equity training. And I wasn't planning to speak tonight either. But after hearing some of the comments, I felt as though I needed to say something. First of all, I want to make sure we all understand that inclusion does not mean exclusion. Just because you hear voices of other people does not mean that your voice is now silenced. It just means that other people get to speak too. We had several students stand up here today and said that the curriculum gave them the opportunity to speak about their own identity. That means if your child is white or Jewish, that means their identity was included in the curriculum. So it's very important for us to understand that this curriculum is really essential because right now we are having those difficult conversations or rather these young people are having these difficult conversations that our generation never got to have. It's so important to have the difficult conversations because that's how you get to equity. That's how you get past racism. Teaching about racism is not racist. Okay, so we need to have this curriculum available for young people, all students. They get to have those conversations we don't get to have. So it's very important. And also, I just want to say that we don't have to be silent or respectful when racist rhetoric is being spoken. If you don't like what's being said and somebody is being oppressed, you can speak up and you don't have to be silent.
Last one.
I believe Sayuri Hughes.
Sayuri.
Hello, that was my mom.
Yay.
So I, as well as her, was not planning to speak again. But the fact of some of the things I heard tonight is absolutely unacceptable, and I'd like to talk about that. No one has ever put anybody down in ethnic studies. We have all been together. And I feel that if you need to specify that what you are saying is not racist, then it is. There is a clear difference between the understanding of the majority and the minority than the understanding of the minority and the understanding of the minority is what ethnic studies teaches. Additionally, as a student, anti-Semitism is a subject we are broadly against in class, and we would never promote the murder and extermination of millions to imply that teaching about minorities and teaching about what people like me is implying is nasty. All those who believe that do not want everyone else's voice to be heard, only theirs. I found myself in this class. All my friends found themselves in this class. It doesn't matter if we are Black, white, Jewish, Mexican. We had so many people support us in these classes. I'm very angry right now about what has been said. And the attempt to try to drag this very personal thing to me actually through the mud, I cannot believe that we are actively having this conversation right now. As a student who I should not have to be saying these things, I'm a child, I am 14. I should not have to be telling a group of adults that learning about racism and the minority and even just social identities is a good thing. Thank you.
As chair, that was the comments, for public comment. I apologize to anyone speaking truth to power, but I'm trying to maintain a meeting and I apologize for that. Anyway, so I'm going to open this up to our staff and to our board members. It is now board discussion time. The whole idea of this presentation is a study session. It is to learn, and that's why we're here. We're here to ask critical questions. We're supposed to hear from everybody's point of view, whether you agree or not, which is what I think is wonderful about ethnic studies. And I want to open this up to the board and to anyone to act. We probably have some questions and some discussion, so I'm going to open up to anyone who'd like to speak. Is there anyone who'd like to talk? Yes, at the table.
Am I okay to start, or should we start with the board?
I was going to go to the board, but go ahead.
Thanks. I want to talk a little bit in response to the anti-Semitic comments. I need to take a breath because I need to take a breath because I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed myself. I'm Jewish. I'm white. I have been trained by this district. Dr. Showman has been my mentor in this district for 7 years. She has given me every single opportunity that I've had here. I could cry thinking about it. But beyond that, I have read this curriculum. I've been trained in this curriculum. I teach this curriculum. I also teach world history. There is no anti-Semitic anything in this curriculum at all. In fact, I talk about being Jewish in my class. My students can make meaning. My Jewish students can make meaning and can make connections to discrimination and stereotyping. The letters that I spoke about earlier, many of my Jewish students use their own experience being Jewish to make connections to that, and really appreciated having the terminology to name their experiences that they were feeling. So I think that in that sense, it worked really well. There was something else I wanted to say. With regards to the Holocaust, we teach the Holocaust. We teach it thoroughly. It does not come in the ethnic studies curriculum. It comes in the world history curriculum about a semester, depending on where you teach, a semester or a year later, and we teach it thoroughly along with other genocides. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. Okay, that's all. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, I am going to open it up to the board. Okay, go ahead.
Sorry, I just want to add on to that. Also, as a Jewish woman, I've been now speaking at these board meetings for the past several months because this keeps coming up. It's deeply upsetting to see my identity, my family's lived experiences being used in a way to demonize the work that I believe so deeply in. My students have never once, not a single time, have we ever not spoken about anti-Semitism. Not once have we ever denied the Jewish experience in light of other experiences. And it really is upsetting. At no point have I seen, I would like to know, because this is obviously a narrative that is being perpetuated throughout our community, and yet there has never been any communication of incidences. There's never been a time that anybody has brought to any of my colleagues that this was an incident that occurred in our classrooms, and yet it continues to be expressed. It continues to be brought up at these board meetings, and yet there has not been any veracity behind that statement. Because if it was there, then that's something we could work with, but instead it just keeps being perpetuated. And again, as a Jewish woman, I find it incredibly upsetting to see this and the harm that I'm experiencing and the harm that others are experiencing. And I really want to honor and acknowledge the fact that for Jewish people, we know that we're 2% of the population, 60% of religious hate crimes in this country. We know that anti-Semitism is on the rise. We understand that. And I know that this is coming from places of trauma for those of you that are expressing that. And I want to honor and validate that trauma that you are experiencing, because it is very hard to be a Jewish person in America right now. But this is not the class that is making it worse. This is the class that is making it better, because we are engaging with this work. So thank you.
Thank you. All right. I'm sorry, I'm getting emotional too. I'd like to open it up to I don't want to be the first person to speak, but I will if nobody else wants to go take a turn. So anyone? All right, I'll go. Bob, I saw you going for it.
Well,
I can.
You love to talk, and
I know I love to talk. I'm trying to hold off as the chair.
Anyway, I know we've all thanked everybody for this honest conversation, and I appreciate the time everybody's investing in this. I have to admit, and I'm not going to go into the 74-year-old African-American totally dedicated to the school district demographic.
That would be you.
That would be who was there when ethnic studies, came up. I attended a class and my eyes were actually opened, and I got called out by the teacher over here who yeah, no, and it really opened my eyes as to how broad and what the, the fabric, the rich fabric, if that's the proper term, ethnic studies in this district is. And I learned a lot when I thought, well, I knew it all. And I think, we have a good product there. Now, can we improve it? We can always improve something. I mean, the district strives for excellence. So our goal should be to make it a better product, to get it out there. The one thing I think it was it wasn't I wrote down the term where you do it interdisciplinary with other classes.
Right.
And I would really like to see it, because then it becomes sort of culture. It's not like you got to go to a class and get this as a discipline.
Right.
It should be what our lives are about. So,
yeah.
And I did not have any comments. I did not have any prepared comments, so that just kind of spilled out. So forgive me.
No, that was awesome. I agree. I think that pedagogy, is what we need, is the interdisciplinary beyond. It's not just within the ethnic studies course, but throughout and weave throughout. Any other comments? I will take a turn if you know.
Oh, I have a comment.
Oh, good. Leah.
First, I wanted to read a quote by Grace Lee Boggs. "You cannot change any society unless you take responsibility for it, unless you see yourself as belonging to it and responsible for changing it." And I read that because that is what I feel ethnic studies also does for our students, is that they feel like they belong. They feel like they're part of the fabric of everything, our society, our culture. And I also read it because some of the influences that we've been receiving in terms of comments have come from a specific group of folks that are there to, I guess, create some sort of ethnic studies curriculum that's supposed to be a lot more constructive, which is not true. That woman, Grace Lee Boggs, is on a list on that website that's called Marxist and Militant Role Models, along with Angela Davis, along with Bell Hooks, along with Asada Shakur and Mumia Abu Jamal, and a bunch of other activists that have helped shaped a lot of our fight and our drive to change things, to make it more inclusive, to just change the perspective of hate. There were some folks there too that were criticized for creating guerrillas in Latin America. And people don't understand why some of these people did what they did and created the coalitions that they did. These were genocides that were happening in our communities in Latin America, perpetuated by other more dominant cultures, which is not right. And so they're having to fight to defend their people, which I don't see anyone else doing differently, right? What if somebody came to our home and tried to destroy our family? We would do the same. So I'm just really proud of our students that spoke today. You all are learning things that I wish I would have learned when I was your age, that I could have seen myself in so many, so much literature, so many lessons. Things would have really come out differently for me in my identity. I really appreciate the educators teaching our children not to have a bias when they see you. I deal with it every day. I'm in a wheelchair. I'm brown. I'm a woman, so those are things that I wish that my children wouldn't have had to experience. I wish my children wouldn't have to experience being called a wetback in 2023. So those are the things that continue. But ethnic studies is not the problem. The problem is the resistance to change. So thank you to the educators, to our students, to our board that that supports this curriculum. I stand with all of you and thank you for your passion.
Anyone else? I'll take a turn. Yep. Terry, go ahead. It's gonna be a long time. No, I'm just kidding. Go. No, Terry, go ahead. I don't want to, as chair, I'm gonna let you go.
Well, first and foremost, I want to thank everybody who spoke. Of course, our educators here, Dr. Schumann, everybody. Should I say Dr. Lee or is it Miss Lee? Dr. Lee, everybody that spoke, all of our amazing instructors that are here. My kids had some of you guys at Cappuccino over there. And I just want to give kudos to all the students that spoke. You guys are truly amazing. You guys really are. I know some had to leave already. And I've known I've known at least one student speaker since kindergarten, and she's right there. So that's why I screamed her name earlier. I'm sorry. Sometimes I need to hold back, and Greg tries to reel me in, but he just can't. I'm so proud of you, Gemma. I know. I have a couple of comments, and I'm not sure if it's going to be that popular, but that's okay, right? We're all here together to learn. I do want to thank everyone who spoke, even those that we may not have agreed with, because I know what somebody said, we don't need to stay silent when we don't agree with somebody. And that is absolutely true when you're having a dialogue. But, at a board meeting, there's times you might see me, you might think my lip itches, but really I'm biting my lip when somebody says something, right? Not necessarily today, but I mean, other times. So I was trying to, I think we could, take a step back and give everybody an opportunity. Everybody has 3 minutes to speak. And sometimes we don't agree with what they're saying, but of course, there are certain circumstances where we need to say, hey, you know what? We're not here to attack a person. We're not here to, but as long as somebody's just expressing their own viewpoint, I think we need to be open-minded to that. Just like we're teaching in ethnic studies. I'm really proud of what we have in our district. I'm really proud of ethnic studies. I think it's important. I'm on my 5th year on the school board, and so I got this sticker, I would say 6 months ago. It says I live ethnic studies. We have one for you as well, and a couple others around here. If you guys want one, I'll try to find more of them. I just want to make sure that we are open-minded to the other students. I think some of the comments from folks that all the comments were important, and I wrote down several pages of comments. One comment that might not be popular, but I do agree with this, is were the students that didn't have such a good experience encouraged to come and speak tonight? Or were they fearful of being able to voice their opinion? I don't know the answer to that. Those that work in the classroom would know that. I'm just throwing that out there. Because I think it's important. The board, we received, well, I'm not going to say the number of emails because Bob's the numbers person, or he says he is. We received probably over 1,200 emails. About 1,000 of those were from one particular group, and they all said the same thing. But then we have, I would say maybe 50 emails that came from individuals, and they were individually written. They weren't necessarily opposed to ethnic studies. They encouraged not a total revamp of the program, but just looking at it, are there areas that need change? Are there areas that need to be more robust? Do we need to be open-minded in certain areas? And I do think we don't need to discount the other comments that we received via email. I think those are important. I think it's somebody here at the table said, and they're absolutely right. It's about teaching about. I'm sorry, hold on a second. My notes. I can't read my own writing. Maybe Greg should have gone first. I won't look at my notes. I think it's educating folks more so that they understand what's going on in the ethnic studies class. I'm 50% Jewish. My girls both have taken ethnic studies. Neither came home saying, well, I'm not happy that I'm 50% Jewish. So you guys do the math. That means that they're 1/4 Jewish. Neither came home saying, wow, in ethnic studies, I felt like I was being personally attacked because I'm Jewish. Well, they're 1/4 Jewish and they're 50% Mexican. So they're kind of a mixture of, they also have German and Irish in there. So they are kind of like, you got the German, so it's just a mix, right? We're mixed bags, as most of us are here in the Bay Area, right? Or California. I'm very proud of our diversity here in the Bay Area. So I wanted to say that I just want to say we shouldn't discount anybody's own personal feelings because it's important for them to unpack how they're feeling. But I do want to say, to your point, I'm 50% Jewish. My girls never came home from ethnic studies saying anything derogatory that they learned in class. So I do want to say that. I also want to say that, I already said that, sorry. It's important to keep the ball rolling, be open-minded. If there's an area that we need to put more attention on that we don't feel is right, I think we need to ask the students how they feel. I'm really, want to focus on listening to the student voice. That's really important to me, listen to the student voice. So I pulled up at the end of the slide deck that we have on the slides, there's a link to 4 different student surveys. And so I don't know what those numbers mean, because I don't think that there's a code right there, but I will read what it says here. It says, did this class help you develop a stronger sense of self-identity and or understanding of you and your cultures, you and other cultures and communities? So 5% said the number 1, which I don't know what that is. 43.8% said the number 2, and 51% said the number 3. So whatever 2 and 3 are, I'm guessing it's yes or no, or maybe it's somewhat and a lot. I think we just need to, I think looking at how every student feels. And then the other one from the prior years, it's kind of the same thing. It said 53% said number 2, 40% said number 3, 6% said number 1. I don't know if number 1 means it didn't help me at all, and number 2 meant it helped me, and number 3 meant it really helped me. I'm not really sure. You guys might know because it's yours. Oh, okay. 1 is from least, then 2, then 3, right? Okay, great. So majority of students said great, because I didn't know, but okay, that helps. So I think it's important though to listen to the students that felt marginalized in the class, that nobody should feel. From what I heard today, I don't think anybody should feel marginalized attending the ethnic studies class, but we did receive some emails, and I did write down a note because of one. Am I talking too long, Professor Land? Okay, no. So that's a joke, but he's a principal, so he's a professor too. So one of the parents who had written to us was concerned about some of the homework and looking at the worksheets, and she sent the worksheet to the board. One of the questions, do you spend most of your time with people of the same race as you? Don't feel guilty or ashamed. And it's for the person to do their own homework. I don't know if somebody was expressing that in class, maybe they didn't feel like they could be honest, right? Or maybe they felt like, well, everybody's saying this, so I better go with the grain, right? But the student, her child said, I am friends with people who respect me and have my same values regardless of race. And I really think that really hit home when I read that I mean, I didn't read every single email, to be honest with you, because there was 1,200, right? But I tried to read all the emails that came through that weren't the same as that 1,000 block of emails where everything was the same, right? Because I've already read that. I've read it like 10 times because, I randomly opened up some to make sure they're the same, and they were the same. So I do think it's important, number 1, to listen to the student voice, listen to the students, make sure students feel comfortable expressing if they don't feel the same as, even if they don't feel the same as 80% of the class, where do those other 20% feel? Do they feel marginalized? Do they feel like, well, I'm white and I can't really speak up because, but I know that nobody in class made them feel that way. I know none of the teachers certainly would make them feel that way, but it's just unpacking how they feel. Do they feel comfortable in class speaking up? So I kind of wanted to say that. And I know this is a board study session. I felt it was of great value to myself, and I'm sure it was to my other colleagues. I don't know what next steps where we go from here. I know President Land, Superintendent Booker will say what the next steps are to learn more. And is there room to, I know I'm in favor of ethnic studies. Is it the ethnic studies that we need? Is 100% of it what we need right now? Or is there 10% we need to tweak? That's kind of what I'm thinking. I don't know. I just want to throw it out there. Anyway, I know I shared a lot, but I hope that Greg Land shares more than me, because then I won't feel so bad.
I don't know about that.
Thanks.
Go ahead.
I mean, you can go first, but
No, go ahead.
okay.
Chair should kind of be last anyway.
So I also want to thank everybody for the presentation today. I know that you've put a lot of effort into it and a lot of heart into your work. And I want to acknowledge that and thank you for that and validate that. I also want to thank the students who shared and were so vulnerable, and thank you, and being so brave. We heard a lot of really great things today. And I want to applaud the good work that we are doing in the district. I do have some questions. Let's talk about timeline a little bit, because I know that we implemented, so the course outline that we have that was linked in Booker's email response to everybody is from 2017. Is that the outline that has been approved by the board?
I believe that was a course of study that was approved by the board back in 2017.
Okay, has there been a course of study approved by the board since then?
Of ethnic studies?
Yeah.
I don't believe so. Once a course is approved, that course of study then is also reviewed by UC A through G. And so if you're going to go change that course of study because of some reason, then you have to reapply through UCA through G. There's a whole system of that. So once it's approved, it's typically approved as a course of study. Curriculum can be changed over time and be iterated over time, but typically your course of study is not.
Well, the reason I ask is because the AB 101 bill says that we have to, if we don't use the ESMC, then, and we're using our own district curriculum, then we have to have a separate public hearing to approve of it. And to my knowledge, we haven't done that since the bill came out. And I'm wondering, also, the course has drastically changed since that course of study. The 4 units that were described are very different. And so also they get together quarterly, it sounds like, for professional development, and yearly for course, iteration. It seems to me that it's prudent to do a board approved review, like do a review of the course, have an in-depth look at what's being taught, and do a public hearing on it. So given the differing opinions.
Not to put Dr. Kempke on the spot, sorry, this is a little bit of this is before my time as I started back in July. I'm not sure if there was ever a curricular review in front of the board post 2017.
The last time that we had the course come before the board was in 2017.
Got it.
We did an adoption of the course graduation requirements, I believe in the fall of 2018, but that was just us approving the board policy to make it a graduation requirement in our district. But as you stated, oftentimes the course is, we leave it on the books as such because it's a pretty long process for us to go back to the college board. Certainly with AB 101, we met the requirement by having it originally approved. I know that there's probably iterations that the team is working on.
So am I hearing from Trustee Jacobson that what you're asking for, I'm just reflecting back what I think I'm hearing, what you're asking for is for the district to bring back a curriculum overview or a curriculum for the board to review. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, that's what you're hearing.
Thank you.
Yes.
I have a question about that though.
Go
So if we do bring back the curriculum, how many of us write curriculum? Just Greg, you've written curriculum, right? So that's the thing is, how could we, so if we were going to do that, could we get a training on how to write curriculum? I wouldn't feel completely comfortable with approving something like that because I wouldn't know how. I'm not an educator. I'm not a curriculum
Actually,
writer.
I'm going to take a turn too. I'm concerned because we've already approved a course of study, so we don't have to go back and do that again. I think we can get an update on how it's being implemented and we can do an update on that.
I think we should get an update on it because it's different than it's totally different from the 2017 version.
I'm going to defer again to Dr. Kempke.
I would just say we have a lot of courses of study in our district. 2017 is actually a fairly new course of study to have on the books. So I don't know if we're considering updating a lot of our courses in this way, or if it's just ethnic studies that we're thinking about. But
Well, I know we have US history that we're reviewing, and that was even more recent than 2017. That was 2018.
Can I clarify, just
Yes.
because our actual current course is not different than the one that has been approved in the UC portal. There we provide a year-long outline because we started as an elective course and teaching it year-long. And then what we've done is if you look at what was provided in that portal and you look at the units we have now, one is from what's outlined in the first semester and the other 3 are outlined from what's in the second semester. What we've changed is those units that are listed in the first semester around I think it's like movement, migration, and it has like the 4 different groups are now intertwined as case studies in the 4 units we teach. So it's not different. And it says in the actual UC portal, the one that's been approved, there's a line that says, if this is going to be taught as a semester course instead of the year long, take the units from the 8 that are there. And then what was outlined as guidance from the state, it does say that if your course was approved in the UC portal as A to G, that you are meeting the requirement for the ethnic studies curriculum. When you can clarify that if I'm wrong.
I also believe that once a course is approved, A through G, any course that, people can replicate the course and submit for that as well at other districts and in other schools.
What I might go so far as to say is that, I've received all the emails too that Trustee Chavez referenced, as well as the rest of the board. I think there is confusion in the community as to what our curriculum is. I think there's assumptions about what our curriculum is. I think tonight or this afternoon and into this evening was an incredible step in communicating to our community what our curriculum is. And, our team had an hour and a half to do it. An hour and a half to cover a semester or 2 different courses is not very much time.
Right.
I actually only gave them 45 minutes and they blew right past that.
Yes, we did.
So awesome.
Okay.
It was awesome. But, I think it might be prudent for the sake of really communicating to our community, like you did tonight, what our curriculum is. That might be a powerful tool and it might be a powerful document. Whether or not the board approves it or not, or whatever, Trustee Land, that's up to you. But I getting the message out that you did tonight, I think is powerful.
That's where I was going to go. So I'm going to take my turn now. So one of the things that I did want to say about the entire thing is, from an educator standpoint, I was really impressed by the 4 elements that you talked about and how you addressed those and what you went into with the units, the 4 units. And what I thought was amazing, if you really think about it, did you notice that all the speakers started to talk about their ethnicity and where they came from, regardless of what it was. And I'm just going to say I'm Norwegian and Mexican too. And so I'm in touch with one of the student speakers and saying, thank you for sharing that. And had the same struggles she did, actually. And that really moved me, that a student would have the same conflicts and personal problems that I personally did. And I'm 50 something years old now. But I think that was the key. When you, as a group of educators, talk to us about talking about identity and using that as the first unit, that is incredibly powerful. And you can hear it in every student's voice that we heard tonight. And that we did have student voice and student agency and choice and amazing pedagogy. And yes, I'm using that word again, but amazing how you're using Socratic method and inquiry and advanced instructional strategies to make this happen, but also very real connections that you've made with your students. This is a community. I mean, the title of your presentation put me as like, that's it, love. I'm going to go back to it because I want to get it right. Sorry, I was at the end. Love, community, and compassion. I think that says it all. And I do want to address the speaker who addressed to me that I made a motion. I'm just going to tell you that was out of frustration because I felt that speaker from Redwood City had no idea what he was listening to, because we listened to an hour of presentation about compassion and understanding and getting to know everyone, each other's perspective, and the counter narratives, and the way in which you teach that is amazing, just the way I saw it. And I just want to hands off to all of you for doing that. You've created a community, a family. And I will give a comment to what Trustee Chavez said. If there's ones who are not belonging and don't fit into this family, why and how can we make it better? Because that is part of this too, and how do we make that happen? And it's not easy, it's something that's going to take time, but you have shown all of us. I mean, I am just in awe of this group of educators that what you're doing, and we need to keep doing it. Couple of the questions that I do have, and I do have some, but I also wanted to comment on the idea of shared humanity, the idea of humanizing education, valuing, these are the words that came out of what this presentation was. If people in this room and on Zoom didn't hear it, they're missing out. That's their problem. And I'm hoping that they can be educated at some point in time. That's what our goal is, right? As educators, is to get people to change, And so I think you were a force for that today. And I just want to compliment all of you on that. Couple of comments questions that I have. One was about instruction. Now I'm getting very technical, but this one's about instructional materials. Do you go through the same process? Did we go through the same process like social studies does, or the US history science department has to go? Do they have rounds of textbook adoption, and what does that look like? I have no idea. I'm just curious.
That's a great question. I wish there was lots of instructional materials for us to adopt in ethnic studies, but because it's new and it did originate in the colleges, we use the Takaki book. It's in the appendix. That's pretty much what every high school across California and the nation is using as their adopted text. That's how we found it. And then we also, our district, prior to ethnic studies, is a partner with Newsella. I think most people know, middle schools, elementary, everyone uses it. So they have a California adopted ethnic studies collection. So that also helps provide lots of like readings and texts that we use. And they've done a really nice job of like pulling materials that align really well with our units. And then they've done the hard work for us of like framing it back to kind of that model curriculum. And then obviously there's things that California has as resources. So we've looked through there and pulled readings from that model curriculum in the lessons. I think you'll see with the money being sent down by the state and the fact that, the mandated graduation requirement has to start being implemented by all districts. I'm sure a publisher will jump on that and try to come up with an actual textbook. But for right now, the one we are using is Takaki, Newsella, and then, during our PDs, we share other resources we find. Sometimes we do rely on some of the materials that might have been used, in colleges, but then we take excerpts or small pieces because we're teaching freshmen. And so we need a scaffold to that.
Thank you. I have only one last question. And this addresses one of the speakers that were like, so what do you do and how can we improve? And they were making comments about how to iterate and make changes. My question is, could someone go in depth with me about the collaboration that you do and how you evolve in your PD teachings? Like, how does it evolve when you do that? I know it's kind of very PLC, and I just wanted to know what it looks like and what it, you get together 4 times a year, right? More or less. And I just want to kind of give us a sample of what do you talk about, what gets iterated, what gets changed, what's evolves, that sort of thing.
And please, obviously my colleagues as well, please jump in. But again, one of the benefits of being in this PLC, professional learning community, for those who don't know that acronym, is the fact that we get to collaborate with people across the district. And I would say that more so than any other subject in this district. And so, over the last couple of years, I think the other thing is, building a curriculum, building all of these things, it takes work and it can be very isolating. And I think, again, the benefit is us being able to rely on each other, to build on each other. And so over the last couple of years, I heard the term family, right? Community, because we've been able to rely on each other. We get emails or we shoot out emails or like, hey, do you have something for this? And that wouldn't have been the case had we not already established that collaboration. And so it's been, about 3 years when we have professional learning with Acosta Educational Partnership. And, they're incredibly responsive to the things that we need. If we're lacking in an area of content, we'll say, could we design or could we have some kind of professional learning that addresses that, not only for our students, but ultimately for ourselves, because a lot of this is work for us. Again, bigger than a syllabus. And so this year, we have 3 different ethnic studies cohorts, one with the general teachers, another with teachers who have been teaching the subject from 1 to 3 years. And then we also have teachers who have been teaching the subject for the course of when we've had it in the district. We're going to combine all of our ethnic studies teachers together in April. And we have just a conversation. We sit actually at a kind of like a table like this. And we bring our best lessons, we bring our questions, we bring our wonderings. And that is where we're able to have those open and honest discussions with our colleagues about what can we do better? What have we been seeing in our classroom? And it's, it's a process and time. And space to do that has been incredibly valuable. And we've also had opportunities to visit each other. As a coordinator, I've been lucky to be in every single one of these colleagues' amazing classrooms. And I have learned so much just by being in their presence. And so I think, like we are responsive to our students, we are responsive to our teachers, and we are open and honest and wanting to do better and to do more, because this is bigger than just a worksheet. This is personal, this is professional, this is healing. And it's also joyful and it's fun. And every time I get together with my colleagues, we have a wonderful time.
Thank you. So question.
I have a comment and then a question. So my comment is I love the collaboration around the district. And I like what you said, is that this is for this subject, there's so much collaboration and it's great. Maybe we could do that for other subjects, but I just want to express the fact that I love the collaboration. So I love that. My question is, I guess directed to Dr. Lee, Dr. Kempke, or Dr. Shulman. Regarding the emails that we've received and the concerns that we've received, can you speak to the reason why some folks, I know there could be misinformation or they're uninformed. Can you speak to the reason why some people, especially the emails we've received, they feel like our curriculum that we currently have is not approved by the state of California? So I just wanted to, that's what the emails, I know, I'm just saying what the email said, if someone could speak to that, because we've receiving a lot of emails, and that's a lot of attention is focused on the fact that this is a curriculum that's not approved by the state of California, unless I misunderstood the email. But why would somebody think that? That's my.
I actually just have no idea is what I would say, because it's board approved. It's been submitted to the UC and it's, it's approved as a course there. My only guess, but I do not know, is that it's just misinformation about the course, because it has gone through all of the proper approvals, and it was done, prior to the model curriculum coming out in the state. So I don't know if there's confusion around that, but the course itself is in no way not approved. Like there's just no truth to that. So I don't know where that misinformation
And
came from.
I'm not saying, just to clarify this for everybody here, I'm not saying that it's not approved. I'm saying that's what folks are telling us that, and I want to know why they're misunderstanding that. But I guess
I will say, I just want to commend Superintendent Booker for all his responses.
Yes.
Because he has been very thorough explaining that.
Yeah.
And I just want to say thank you, because that really was an important component.
But even after though, Superintendent Booker responded, there are people that are still saying the same thing. And that's very damaging, and it's very, very frustrating, because we've already responded. And so at that point, I just don't know.
I think Dr. Lee was going to say something.
Yeah, thank you. From the outline, from the UC outline that you've submitted, and all of the documentation of the course, I have the model curriculum right here.
All 800 pages. There you go.
And every unit that was that I've seen is aligned to the model curriculum. So I don't know where, I don't think there has been specific incidences or, lessons that have been pulled out or called attention to specifically that that may not be. I think those could be ones that you could review if you ever get those. Just it seemingly looks more like a targeted attack or one of your employees.
Yes.
Yeah. Dr. Lee, thank you for straightening that out.
I have some more comments.
Sure.
Okay, thanks. So one of the emails that we received linked to this article that I found really helpful to me, it's by Bill Honig, who was the former state superintendent of schools. And he's talking about how ethnic studies should be. And he says, inclusive ethnic studies programs that adopt these principles. And he talks about, he goes through things that we all have seen tonight. Things like opportunities to learn about California's ethnic groups' histories, instills a sense of justice regarding and willingness to confront past and present racism, things like that. He says, inclusive ethnic studies programs that adopt these principles inspire all students to embrace their own and others' cultures, develop their individual potential, appreciate our common humanity, and continue the important work of advancing America's quest for a more perfect union. In contrast, there is a new genre of ethnic studies, quote, liberated ethnic studies, marketed as the authentic version, with ideological roots in the 1960s Black Power movement's neo-Marxist and liberationist and university-promoted critical theory. Liberated ethnic studies is part of a political